Welcome to another edition of the Royal Lions UK podcast, episode 298. I am a Caliph on the wind. My name's Matthew Turner alongside Ashley Soden. How you doing, man?
Doing good. Obviously, still coming down from the adrenaline high of yesterday's game, but we move, and hopefully we are now top of the world. It seems top of the NFC, top of the DVOA rankings. It's all going up.
It's a beautiful day in Lions country. I just want to say this just before we go into our preamble stuff. How nice it is to actually have. I know it's great to blow out teams, but it's just awesome sometimes to snatch a victory when you could lose. The trauma of possibly losing makes a win all the more sweeter. This game is made so much better by having someone like the Vikings to go against as opposed to the fucking Cowboys. Fuck those Cowboys. Just needed to get that in to start with. We're going to go into our preamble, then a little bit of news before going into the game review, as of course we are here for on a Monday. Hope you were well and had a good weekend. Please do come and join our Discord channel. Great place to be all week long talking NFL, or any other sport, or basically anything gambling stuff, whatever you like. Link us in the live chat right now. If you're in the audio pod, it is in the description. Please come and join us. We'd love to see you. College Football Podcast is going to be coming up in midweek. Going to be looking back at week 8 already. I can't believe how quickly this season is going. Another great load of upsets in there, including Tennessee potentially all but ending Alabama's hopes of the playoffs, and lots of other good stuff in there, so do join Ant and Ryan when that goes live. We've got Lions Nation Unite, Herman Moore's project to bring the best in Lions content creators together, so please do go and support him and them there. Ant is on their stuff all the time, so if you love Ant stuff, go and check them out. Please do like this show and sub to the podcast too. It'd be great to have your support. It really does help us out with the algorithm and all that good stuff. You know what to do by now. And we are Twitch affiliated, YouTube monetized, and there's a tip jar down below. If you enjoy what you're listening to and you want to show some love, that'd be fantastic. But having you here is more than enough. News, Ash. Only one bit of news came out just before the game, and the defensive tackle and former 7th round pick of the Lions about 7 years ago, Pat O'Connor, has been signed to the 53-man roster from the practice squad. The roster now stands at 52. This comes off the back of Kyle Pico going to IR. What a remarkable turnaround from someone who really wasn't given a shot the first time around.
Yeah, 100%. And even then, he's had to sort of claw his way into potential reps for us. Obviously, going to the Bucks for a while, being a heavy rotational piece there, and a special team on the block teams and all that. So it's nice to see him sort of come back home and start getting some meaningful reps. Obviously, kind of helps, as you said, that we've been ravished on the D line, so we need people there. We need bodies, and he can play that sort of free tech big end role that Levi, Wingo, and now him can do. You've got a nice rotation there instead of having to rely on a rookie who fell in the draft and got a former second rounder with some injury problems, shall we say. It's nice to have someone there who is a bit of a veteran, been there, done that, and can just come in and take 10, 15 snaps a game at either spot and help relieve them, because, God, I don't think I could play that many snaps at my weight, and they're like double the size of me, so God help them.
Yeah, I think he's done well in relief. I mean, just having a look at the grades for yesterday's game, he came in, played 12 snaps, and graded higher than Onzarike, Ukwu, Pascal, and DJ Reader. So that's not a bad little debut on the 53-man roster for Pat O'Connor, and hopefully he can grow into even a little bit of a larger role if he continues to do well. So congrats to him. Right, let's go into this game proper, as that's the only bit of news that we have. Lions eke out the win 31-29. Just have a look at the inactives briefly, as we did live on the play-by-play that we do. But assuming that you guys haven't heard that already, then the Lions were missing Kevin Zeitler, the right guard, Isaiah Williams, wide receiver, tight end Parker Hesse, and left tackle Giovanni Manu, as well as the newly acquired edge defender Isaiah Thomas and safety Lauren Strickland. Ash, Zeitler missing obviously turned out, especially in the first few drives, to be pretty decisive in us going 10-0 behind in that first quarter. But as the game went on, it seemed to be a bit of less and less of a factor. Hesse missing, was a surprise. It was not a surprise when Zylstra came up that he was the one to miss out, but before Zylstra was called up, Hesse had been playing some significant reps, and I think we knew that Thomas probably wasn't going to make it this early, with Williams, Manu, Strickland all kind of expected as week-to-week inactives. So just give me your thoughts on those inactives to begin with.
Yeah, obviously Zeitler was the big miss, to the point where the Vikings equivalent of Pride of Choice was treating within the first 10 minutes of the game, keep attacking him, because obviously by that point they'd given up 2 penalties and that, which is kind of spoilers for later. But that was the big miss because Zeitler had really settled in on our offensive line. He was playing some of his best football, according to people who've seen him at his other stops, Jeff Risdon. Everyone else just kind of expected when Zylstra came up, and especially when Jeremy tweeted, "Oh yeah, it's not to do with any health, it's just left someone on the depth chart." Seemed it would be Hesse, because Hesse was only really on the roster to play fullback, and that's it. Though Zylstra didn't play that much, so really was it worth elevating him and not someone else? Debatable. And yeah, the rest were just expected. Thomas needs another week to get used to the playbook, and Manu, Strickland and Williams, they're just the stash inactives, kind of like Stephen Gilmore last year, where they're not good enough to actually play, but they're good enough that if we try and release them and put them into the practice squad for someone else, a team will probably steal them. So yeah, they're just going to have to go through the whole being a game day inactive. They can still be on the sidelines, like with the practice squatters and that, like everyone else on our team is, to get the experience, but they don't have to be thrown into the fire just yet when they're not ready.
It feels weird with Zylstra because, as has just been pointed out by Carlton Wood in the chat, he only managed 3 offensive snaps. I mean,
yeah,
it's all well and good saying to a guy, right, you're not going to make the game day roster because we're bringing someone up ahead of you. If you do that, you kind of expect that person to take some reps. Like, it kind of begs the question, what was Zylstra there for, in a way? Because if you think about what's going to happen on special teams, you'd think someone like Hesse is going to do a little bit more than someone like Zylstra, at least on field goal kick, or something like that. That someone of Hesse's build is going to do a little bit more. So I'm still a little bit bemused by the decision, generally speaking, because at that end of the roster, I mean, what is Zylstra going to do on special teams, really?
I mean, I'm looking, he did take 15 special team snaps, which is tied. It is 9th on the team, but I swear Hesse can do the exact same thing, and he's got more experience actually playing in the playbook. So yeah, it was a bit of a weird one, but maybe they saw something in practice and then they just didn't get the looks they wanted for him to come and do what they brought him up for.
Or maybe they were worried about the health of Sam Laporte or something, so they wanted someone with more of his skill set. I don't know. But anyway, let's get into the game and the stats. So, obviously, the Lions win 31-29. Jared Goff leading the team in passing, 22 of 25 for 280 and 2 touchdowns, 11.2 yards per play. He was sacked 4 times, but he had a QBR of 87.3 and a passer rating of 140. It's 3 consecutive 140-plus games. Really, really impressive by Jared. Didn't put the ball in harm's way whatsoever. Apart from fumbling the ball on sacks, he's credited with 2. I'm pretty sure it's actually 3 when we go through, but let's see anyway. So ball security an issue when he's feeling the pressure, but we'll get to that. Running the ball, there was only one man for the job yesterday. Jahmyr Gibbs was that guy. 15 carries for 116 yards and 2 touchdowns. Montgomery was held to 31 on the ground on 9 carries, and he also had that late fumble to put the win in question. In the receiving game, Amon St. Brown was perfect. 8 of 8 for 112 and a touchdown. Jahmyr Gibbs was 4 of 4 for 44. And Khalif Raymond was 3 of 4 for 39 and a really big touchdown late. As I mentioned, Goff fumbled. It says twice by ESPN. I'm pretty sure it's 3. Monty also had a fumble earlier. There was only one of those fumbles that was actually given up, and that was recovered by Ivan Pace Jr. for Minnesota for a touchdown, which really changed momentum quite early on in the game in the favour of the Vikings. Excuse me, I'm still suffering with my illness. That's why my voice is slightly going. On defence for the Lions, Anzalone led the team with 8 tackles. The Lions had 4 sacks. That was for Rodriguez, Campbell, Nowaski, and Pascal. There was also an extra TFL in there. That was by Alex Anzalone. There were 2 passes defended. They were both by Brian Branch. 5 quarterback hits. They are all of the sacks. And then an extra one for DJ Reader. The interception on the Vikings was made by Brian Branch, which was a real backbreaker for the Vikings as they were fighting us coming back into the game. That would have brought them back into the lead. Instead, we managed to go in front, or further in front. Can't remember which. We'll get there. Jake Bates was perfect on the day, including the game-winning field goal with 15 seconds to play. And Jack Fox had a good day, punting, 1 touchback, but 1 inside the 20, an average of 55 yards per kick. For Minnesota, Sam Darnold, 22 of 27, so only 7 incompletions between the 2 quarterbacks in the game, which is nuts. 259 yards, a touchdown and a pick. He had a passer rating of above 100 as well. Aaron Jones, 14 carries for 93 yards and a touchdown, including the long 34-yarder to kick us off. Justin Jefferson was 7 of 8 for 81 and a touchdown in the air. Defensively, Ivan Pace, not only had he the fumble recovery for a touchdown, he also led the team tackles with 10. There were 4 sacks, 1 by Ivan Pace, 2 by Andrew Van Ginkel, and 1 by Jonathan Grenard. There were 2 extra TFLs, 1 by Van Ginkel and 1 by Jonathan Bullard. There were 2 passes defended, both by Jonathan Bullard, who is a defensive end. They were bats at the line. There were 7 quarterback hits. They were all the sacks plus the Jerry Tillery quarterback hit and 2 Josh Metellus quarterback hits. And then I've talked about Ivan Pace's touchdown already. In terms of kicking, Will Rijkaard was really impressive in his performance. 3 of 3 field goals, 2 of 2 and extra points, including several long ones. Their punter was fine, but unremarkable. Ash, the stats are super close, as you would expect. And I think maybe the biggest number out of all of that is 1 interception for Sam Darnold for Brian Branch. And I know that they had a fumble recovery for a touchdown, but you take away that pick and it was a heck of a play by Branch. Maybe we're looking at something very, very different. And also he had the really smart heads-up play for the 2-point conversion. Of course, he didn't actually have a pass breakup there, but managing to follow the man in motion and making sure that their breakup couldn't be there. If they get that 2-point conversion, this is a tie ball game.
Exactly. Like, this was the game of the week easily. And, well, yes, it was a roller coaster to watch, especially for those watching with us, because after that first quarter, I was depressed. And then by the end of the first half, I'm all happy. This was about a real ding-dong battle, to use another British football cliche, Jesus Christ. Just both teams going at it, obviously getting stops on each other, equal turnover battle, which probably would have been the key. Yeah, if either team didn't turn over the ball, they probably would have won by a bit more, obviously. Not to do with Michael Owen, Jesus. But
a lot of people won't get that reference in here, but it's a golden one. I love it.
Thank you.
If they only put the ball in the net more, they would have won.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't deny that the Lions play good, but you should agree that Spurs should have won the league. Hate you, mate, genius. The big thing for me, and I'm not personally salty because this partly lost the bet I made with my friend that he put on for me, the David Montgomery injury. Would he have fumbled if he got that knee injury or whatever it was that ruled him out early? I don't know. Like, Gibbs definitely, I'm proud of him for picking up the slack to the point now where the Sonic the Hedgehog movie has tweeted that edit that was made of him. That's how big we are now. The Sonic movie is tweeting about the Lions. But Monty would have been a nice close, especially in that sort of the fourth quarter where they obviously scored the 12 points, though obviously partly that's because he fumbled. But just having a healthy him, maybe would have closed it out a bit more. It wouldn't have been as close because I'm looking at that ESPN win probability graph, and Jesus, it goes from 84% in favour of us with that, all the way down to 71% with that fumble. It literally crashes the win percentage graph. So just we'll say again, to use the cliche, start the stream yesterday, a 6-pointer. Luckily, we came away with the 6 points in a way.
I mean, looking at the win percentage graph, even when they went in front, they still weren't as big a favourites as they were when we were 3rd and 1, down 10-0.
Yeah.
4.5 minutes into the game. So that's how deep the hole that we got into was. Just to give you some of the team stats, just to highlight exactly how close this game was. And just to say before I do that, many thanks to MileMarker301 for the $20 super chat, 3 lines emojis and 5 and 1. Appreciate you, MileMarker. That's great, awesome stuff. How close this game was. Both teams were 4 of 10 on third down. There was 8 yards of offense difference between the teams. In terms of yards per play, we had 7. They were at 7.4. In terms of net passing, there were 3 yards between the teams. There were the same number of sacks for each team. There were the same number of penalties for each team, 8 each. We were penalised for 49 yards on our 8. They were penalised for 59 yards on their 8. I imagine that's probably the first time this season a team has been penalised for more yards through penalties than we've had. In terms of time of possession, we had 29 minutes, they had 31. I mean, there's very, very little to split these two teams when it comes to the overall stats. When it comes down to it, if you think about it, if it's almost equal plays, equal yards, what have you, they went for 2-pointer and didn't get it, and we won by 2. Like, I think it really does kind of come down to that in the end. So it's props to the Lions, especially at the end, for kind of being as aggressive as they were in trying to get Bates a good field goal kick, because we'll get into it, but they got into field goal range and they kept going for it. That pass to Aaron Ross-Brown into double coverage was while they were in field goal range. And, that burned more clock and, it gave the Lions a fighting chance because Will Rijkaard was in field goal range for him. It would have been the NFL record for a field goal, but he showed off his leg in this game, and I think he could have got it if they'd allowed him to go for it. So the fact that they had that penalty, which set him back 5 yards at the end, I think maybe won us the game. I don't know. But anyway, let's get into this one now properly by going drive by drive, as we normally do in Minneapolis, Minnesota? Minneapolis, God dear Lord. That is where they play, obviously. Won the toss and deferred, which I thought played into our hands, to be honest, because I think we would have taken the ball anyway. In the first drive, we had holding on Coyote Awashika. Goff was then strip sacked by Van Ginkel. Coyote was holding on the play, but it was declined, so that's his second holding call. And Goff actually ended up recovering his strip sack there, so that's number 1 for Goff. On 3rd and 26 as a result, Goff checks it down to Monty, who gains 19 yards across the middle, and on 4th and 7, a fake punt speed option fails. They get 1 yard, but get turned over on downs. Let's stop there. It was a good look in terms of what they had for the punt. You can see why they've gone for it, because they've got the overload on that side, they've got the numbers to get all the blocks done, and they just didn't execute, did they?
No, they didn't. So it's been tweeted out past 2 hours or so, like the breakdown of that. 3 guys block 1. 1 tries to block 1, and that's the one that fails. It's the one where you can see it goes for like a chip block and just runs over him. And like I do like the play. I really did like the play. Like I called it as soon as it happened. Like that's a failed speed option. It's just one of them where it was a great play. Just they had the perfect answer, and one little flaw of execution from us ruined it. Basically, I'm not going to hold it against anyone, obviously, because we did his best. It's just it happens sometimes. You have the perfect play, and sometimes it just doesn't work out for us. And God, just thinking about it, imagine if we didn't win this game, that particular decision by Dan would be crucified by the national media right now instead of obviously all the nice things that are being said about Jared Goff. So it makes a nice difference.
I mean, I think it's quite interesting how the narrative has changed on just even doing the punt in the first place, not the fake punt in the first place, because I think if we hadn't had the success with the fake punts that we've had in the past, he would have been eviscerated by the commentators. But instead they said, how aggressive he is, and it's so successful that you can't almost blame them for trying to pull it off again. But equally they said, but it often comes at the beginning of games, and maybe they've scouted to see that, because we haven't often done this sort of thing with like 7 or 8 minutes to go in the game, because that would be too obvious if you're behind. But here, it kind of feels like it's the right time to take our team by surprise. Unfortunately, we've put it on tape quite a lot. This is what we like to do, maybe at the end of the first or second drive where things stall out and you want to try and nick a possession if you see a good look. Just to go into the speed option side of things, and maybe my terminology is wrong, but you've got the punter, and then in between the line of scrimmage, you've got your 2 up men, haven't you? So one's Vaki, and one's Jalen Reeves-Maybin, and Jalen Reeves-Maybin's on the right-hand side, and Vaki's on the left-hand side. direct snap is to Janie Reeves-Maybin, but Vaki is in motion before the snap to almost wheel round. So he gets to the right-hand side of Janie Reeves-Maybin, and Maybin effectively is not even running off right tackle. It's like doing a sort of stretch play. If it was like a kind of normal offensive snap, he's kind of running outside where the right tackle would be. And then he's got Vaki who he can kind of pitch the ball to outside. And I saw some people say, maybe if you pitch it to Vaki, you've got a better chance. And maybe, but like in a sort of rugby play, you're relying on that sort of pitch being absolutely perfect so his momentum's being carried, and even then Vaki still has to beat a guy one-on-one who's in front of him, although Jalen was maybe did have two people in front of him, so maybe it would have been a better option. But I mean, the worst case scenario there maybe is the pitch goes wrong, and then maybe the Vikings even recover it for a touchdown on that very same play. I mean, I know it only took them 2 more plays to score, but what did he think of that as well? Because obviously the execution on blocking failed, but then maybe we could have pitched it anyway.
Yeah, so we could have. So I've watched it back and was doing it, and you can see Germ is going to pitch it because that's the whole point of a speed option. Is the person who gets the ball usually waits till the last second just to give the person they're pitching it to. So usually it's obviously a rushing QB. So let's say, honestly, if obviously touch wood, it doesn't happen. If something happens to Goff, we have to see Hooker. I could see us running speed options with him and then Gibbs or Vark in the backfield because that's what it is. You've got the threat of the rusher, and then they're crashing on them, and then the QB usually just pitches out to a running back, who's then got one person to beat usually. Do come out, and they can do it. It's just as soon as Germ's going to pitch it, he just gets tackled. You can kind of see it's like his arms going like that. They wrap him up perfectly. He can't pitch it. Goes down for the only 1 yard gain. Like I'm there for it. I'm there for it. This is not the big special teams play that annoyed me. It's the failed non-call on the touching the long snapper. Paul Hogan got pushed over by, I think it was Metellus at the end of the game. But is what it is. Special teams, as I said, I keep saying, can be the thing, the little margin that wins you games. This look, fortunately for us, didn't lose us the game.
So we got Brent in the chat just saying that he disagrees with us because the motion he thinks alerted the defense to the fact that we were actually trying to go for a fake there. And I do think that does kind of tip off because we tend not to use motion on a punt play pre-snap. I mean, I think my answer to that would be, I think you're right. However, for me, that's an argument to start using motion before a normal punt play so that you're throwing them off. Because if it alerts them to the fact that it's a fake, and it's not a fake, then you're putting your team in a great position to have a really good punt. Depends, I guess, maybe that person's meant to be into block if it is actually a punt, and maybe you're putting the punter in danger by doing that as well. So, you've got to actually fake them out. But if you can pull off the trickery by putting it on tape where you don't run a fake, then maybe it works. But I think he's got a point, hasn't he?
Yeah, he does. And then to go one step further, we start doing that. What's Jack Fox known for on fake punts? Imagine it now. We've done that. We start using emotion. Week 18 against the Vikings, we pull out the exact same look, except for Germ doesn't get the snap. It goes to Fox. Fox tosses it to Varke.
Yeah, I can see it. I can definitely see it. Yeah,
that's the game now. We start doing that, and I agree. It does probably will mess up our punt coverage a bit, but let's say we do it so next time they have that. Like in this one, they had to overload on our left-hand side of the line. You motion a guy like that, almost like that, to be an extra person protect today. Then you're leaving whoever's your right tackle technically on the play. They have to really hold the edge in a way against the blockers, but it could work. It's like we're trying everything these days on special teams. Like as we saw with that, the touchdown to the long snapper that me and Ant will start calling for every single week now until it happens, because we saw it in college a couple of weeks ago. Everything's happening in special teams now. Whatever loopholes you can find, such as jumping over the guard rather than the long snapper, and then it doesn't matter if you touch the long snapper because the refs won't call it. Cough, cough, Vikings and Steelers. Every little helps. And now I'm going to get killed by my employers because I said the Tesco's tagline instead of Sainsbury's. I'm going to get fired. Oh, no.
Oh, no. Many thanks to Jason Adderley for the £10 super sticker with the number 1 and the balloon emote. Appreciate you, Jason. Jason is planning a trip to go to Houston for the game in a few weeks' time. So if anyone is going to Houston for the Lions-Texans game, do get in touch with Jason. I'm sure it'd be great for someone this side of the pond to connect, maybe go for a tailgate, that sort of thing. Just putting it out there in the world. Right, let's get on with the rest of this then. So that ends the drive at the Lions 34. And first play the screen pass to Justin Jefferson for no gain. They put that on tape there, and then they did it a couple more times in the game later. 2nd down and 10. And Aaron Jones with a one-cut 34-yard touchdown. Goes up the gut and then just cuts to the left-hand side. Poor angle taken by Terry and Arnold potentially there. He kind of comes inside almost tracking a wide receiver as if it's going to be a pass. And then just reacts far too late to get back outside as the force defender, because he's not just the outside cornerback there. He's also got to be the force defender in run fits, and he just totally missed it. It was a run, I think. It's either that or it's a terribly bad angle, and I'd like to hope he read the play poorly rather than executed the play badly, but we'll see. Anyway.
I think it's... Unfortunately, I think it's the latter. Those who watch Pro Detroit cast, again, this is me pumping up one of my questions I asked after the Seattle game. What happened in that second half for them to be able to do that? And it was just him taking bad run fits. He just crashes inside a bit too eagerly. So maybe it's him reading the play badly, but also just him taking a bad angle on it as well, because it happened in the Seattle game that allowed Kenneth Walker to get all his yards, and obviously it's happened again here. But it's something that we can work on. It's him just being too eager to maybe make the big play rather than, doing the I'm not going to say the F word and inspire the ghost of Matt Patricia on this podcast, but, do the F word.
All right, so that puts the Vikings up 7-0 after the PAT is good. Detroit's second drive, we get into 3rd and 4, well protected, and Goff can't find anyone to throw to, tries to scramble, but can't get there and takes a big hit. Gains only 1. There was holder on Decker, which was declined there, so you have to punt from the 37. It almost gets blocked, and the punt goes into the end zone, which is not ideal. So Minnesota go out for their second drive. Aaron Jones with a nice start, running off right tackle for 8. A really good tackle by Jack Campbell, actually, on that play. Could have gone for a lot more. Next play up, and a great tackle again by Malcolm Rodriguez on Jones to make it 3rd and 2. But then a fantastic catch, maybe the catch of the day by Justin Jefferson for a chunk play. In man coverage, the ball is way out in front of him, and he's almost in midair catching it with his fingertips. It was really impressive. That was for 20 or so. Next was a toss play to Jones, but tackle for a loss by Jack Campbell. He read it really, really well. 2nd and 11, Darnold scrambles, and a good tackle by Pascal, but unfortunately holding by Carlton Davis, 3rd, gives them a first down. Jones then runs off right tackle again for no gain. Good work by Campbell and Malcolm Rodriguez again. Pass to Munt in the flat, and he gets 2 on 3rd and 8. A Darnold check down, the tackle by Nowaski in space, forces a 57-yard attempt by Rijkaard, which is good. And it was good by a long way.
10 yards or so.
10 yards. And if it is 10 yards, that means it would have been good from 67. Remember that number when we come to the very final play. All right, so that makes it 10-0 Minnesota. And, I mean, it's worst case scenario at this point for the Lions. Or is it? Because in their 3rd drive, play action chat down to Tim Patrick. Really weird play. Goff kind of goes on the play action, rolls to his right, and then throws it back inside to Tim Patrick. You don't see that sort of play very often, throwing back across your body towards the line of scrimmage. Patrick catches it really well, turns upfield for a gain of 3 yards, and then goes down, ball comes out, and Vikings have it. It's called down by contact on the field. It's challenged by the Vikings. It looks for all the world as if it's a fumble, but the play is upheld as called. The replays did show that his elbow was down.
Yeah.
He lost the ball, but recovered it before he went down, and then the elbow goes down. His hand is wrapped around by the defender, so that's why it looks like it's been recovered by the Vikings, but the Lions really get away with one there. However, they don't make the most of it. A play action throw to Monty, who runs east-west on 2nd and 9, so doesn't get the first. On 3rd down inches, he runs for no gain, and there's his injury, Monty. He goes out, and when he comes back, he doesn't look like the same player for the rest of the game. He has some good runs in there. It's not like he was a shadow of himself, but he just wasn't quite firing on all cylinders. Lions do line up on 4th down and inches after the injury to go for it, but the Vikings draw the Lions on a false start. They kind of jitter at the line, which causes one of the...
It was KOD because Phillips was moving and he just does a quick mini set, like 1 second to work, and that's enough to get the full start penalty, unfortunately.
It's frustrating because it can be ruled that if the Vikings are the team to kind of force a false start in some way, that you can call it on the Vikings. But it's more of a college rule, I know. But at the same time, there are certain elements where you can have that call the other way, but it never looked like it was going to be in that case. So Minnesota end up getting the ball again, 10-0 down. They're getting the ball to start the second half. This is where it gets really dark for the Lions. But the Lions start turning it on from here on out. Holding on Munt versus Pascal sets them back straight away for 1st and 20. They get one on 2nd and 19. And Alim gets held so hard that he actually crashes into Darnold's knees. They want roughing the passer. It's not called because of the holding penalty, which sets him back even further to 2nd and 24 because that's a half-distance penalty. Nice catch for 11 by Jalen Naylor. Leads to 3rd and 13. Then a false start on Garrett Bradbury. The centre's 3rd and 17. But they get 10 on that, but it's 4th and 7. And so they punt it to our 16, which is returned by Khalif to the 31. So a great series going 10-0 down and then having to punt the ball away. If we didn't get something there, I think that was almost curtains at that point. So they really rebounded well, and then they get some points back on the board. Here's where the tide really starts to turn. Smart screen pass with the extra man out there. So they had 2 wide receivers on the left-hand side of the Lions and only 1 defender. So a throw to Amon-Ra St. Brown on the bubble screen, and JMO blocks to get Amon-Ra that first down. This is the Lions' first down of the game, and that's the end of the first quarter. So it was 4 drives and 15 minutes off the clock before the Lions even got a new set of downs, which is all manner of ugh. But then to end this drive off, Gibbs goes off right tackle with a massive hole for a 45-yard touchdown. Panay put in some great blocking in there, and JMO kind of escorted Gibbs home. PAT was sliced, but it was good, 10-7. And that 45-yard rushing touchdown was the longest run Minnesota have allowed this season. Ash, let's stop there. Obviously, we had the Patrick fumble I just mentioned, which wasn't. Then Minnesota kind of don't do it, and they have 3 flags of their own on a drive. And then suddenly the Lions have scored a massive rushing touchdown. And, that broke the Vikings in that second quarter.
It really did. And it was nice to see because obviously Gibbs ran over to, I believe it is his mom and his girlfriend. I've seen, if you've seen the perspective of the girlfriend where she's there and she's screaming and he comes over and you can just see behind her hugging. It's really, really nice. And then obviously he calls again later, which is great. But yeah, that, I remember the end of the first quarter yesterday. I was like, oh yeah, we finally got a first down. Is this going to turn the tide? And thank God it did, because we were on the road to nowhere before that. Pretty much everything that could go wrong was going wrong. Obviously, the Patrick fumble that wasn't, thank God that his elbow was down. Monty going east-west, if he just tried to barrel through the defenders rather than trying to shoot past them, maybe would have got the first. Maybe
he definitely would have. There was the space in front of him to get the half yard he needed. So he tried to break it longer. It's just frustrating. Drew's asking what happened to Montgomery. He was hurt to the point where he had to be helped off. It was left knee, wasn't it?
It was a knee thing. So, according to all those Twitter doctors, it might just be a slight MCL sprain. It's obviously you can play through, just put a brace on, but it obviously will hamper you, especially because obviously I think his left foot. I'm trying to think. His left foot would be his planting foot because he's right-footed.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously you imagine you trying to put all your weight down your left foot and your knees hurt. That's going to really hurt you, quite literally. So yeah, fortunately he was able to come back in and still get some good stuff. But yeah, he'll might have a limited practice this week or something, just ice it a bit, and then hopefully he'll be fine. But thank God we kind of worked out the perfect way to start getting around that blitz at the end of that first quarter, and then hitting them for the big touchdown. Like, assuming, like, I think it was at the end of the first half, we hit them for 5 explosive plays and 3 of them with touchdowns. Something mad like that. Like, we really made, when we got those explosives, we really made them count, which you kind of need to against Minnesota, because they're that good of a defense that if you don't, they can really keep you in check.
So Vikings come out for their 4th possession. Cam Akers returns a kickoff 2 yards deep, only gets to the 24, but Detroit had a legal formation. That's not going to make Dave Phipp happy, so that gives them an extra 5 yards out to the 29. This was a little thing here where Minnesota were very willing to kind of return the ball on kickoffs a couple of yards deep when they could have come out to the 30. I think that was a tactical mistake, to be honest, especially with the Lions being so good in kick coverage. After that, Darnold under pressure scrambles 19 upfield after a great block by Aaron Jones. Jack Campbell came on a blitz. It would have destroyed lesser running backs. It really would. It was well timed. It was well positioned. But with Jones taking a great angle to absorb the hit, there was no other players in the secondary looking at Darnold. So it was a really good move for him to scramble upfield for that 19. Then there was a play to Jones, which was busts, no gain on that. Darnold throw to Jefferson, but it was a flag because Addison covered up someone on the line. Then Darnold to Addison got some of that yardage back, but a great tackle by Branch on a crosser led to 3rd and 9. And then a PBU by Branch on Munt. It would have been a first down, but great timing by him to get that PBU. And they had to punt again to the 17. So Detroit have an opportunity to at least tie the game or go ahead in their 5th drive. Play action pass to Amon-Ra Brown up the middle for 17, and he was roughed for another 15 yards to get the ball to the 49-yard line of Detroit. A 2-step drop to Amon-Ra Brown for 8 yards, very quick throw, nice little juke by him, gets the first down, and then a false start on Monty sets us back by 5. He then runs for 4 to get 2nd and 11, and there's a touchdown for the Lions from there. Cover 0 look, almost everyone up on the line, they're all in press man, and they do bring that pressure. But the Lions are really smart. They motion Tim Patrick in from the XY receiver position toward the line of scrimmage and then snap the ball. And Patrick, with that momentum, is able to go all the way along the line to block the left defensive ends. That's all the way on the other side of scrimmage. That frees up David Montgomery, the running back, to be an extra pass blocker who isn't actually required on the play, which is really great when you're having a cover 0 look, because that means they're bringing basically everyone. And that gives the Lions time to throw man-to-man down the field. Amon-Ra beats his man down the field, and it's a great on-time throw by Goff for the 35-yard touchdown. But actually, Jameson Williams, he has a little double move. Well, not double move. He goes from the slot. He goes for what looks like a kind of almost quick out, and then just turns upfield, which beats his guy too. At the point where Goff's throwing, JMO has about 5-6 yards of separation for a touchdown on the left-hand side of the field as well. So either way, it looked like we were going to get one there. PAT was good. And it's 14-10 to Detroit. Minnesota with a chance to respond, only down 4, and they've got the ball, and they're still getting the ball to start the second half. So if they score here, they're still pretty much ahead in this game. Bates' kick is short, which forces a return by Akers, and he's absolutely hammered at the 25. The fact that he didn't fumble there was really, really good for Minnesota. Play action pass to Jefferson for 14 yards. Aaron Jones tripped up after a gain of 4, and then a 6 check down to Jones. He made a few miss for the first down to the Detroit 45, and then on a subsequent 2nd and 8, a play action pass headed for Jordan Addison. He completely missed Brian Branch playing the rubber roll at safety. He saw and read the quarterback's eyes, broke on the ball, but it still took a flying leap and catching it at full extension in the air, and then to actually secure the catch before hitting the ground. Brilliant athletic play by Brian Branch. He is absolutely elite at reading quarterbacks, and it showed there. So that would have been at like the red zone area, 20-yard line or so. So Branch effectively saves at least 3, if not 7, on that play. And then the Lions up 4 have a chance to extend it to a 2-possession lead, and they do. Gibbs runs off left tackle for 9 with great contact balance. Check down then to Gibbs over the middle for 18. Gibbs up the gut run with a stiff arm for 9 yards. 2 for Amon-Ra Brown then. Monty runs into a run blitz for a tackle of loss of 1. On 2nd and 11 versus another cover 0 look, they then bail out of that one and only bring 4. But it doesn't matter because Goff just throws it 25 yards down the middle to Sam Laporta. It was a bad throw to Sam Laporta, but he adjusts so well to pick it up off of his feet. That's a 2-minute warning for the half. On 3rd and 7 from the 8-yard line, Minnesota are selling out against the pass in full man-to-man coverage. In shotgun, the Lions hand it off to Gibbs, which is like a... I know we've made a thing of actually doing this, but in the red zone, 3rd and long, in shotgun, they hand it off. And Gibbs just walks in. It was nuts. Like, insane play. Minnesota's defense had no chance. They had no one even close to him. And he was 8 yards... Well, by the time he receives the ball, he's 12 yards deep. It was a staggering play. And so with about half a minute left, no timeouts, Minnesota have the ball 21-10 down. And Jones has a big garbage time run, but they can't clock it in time. And that's the half. The Lions go in, having been 10-0 down at the end of the first quarter. Ash, they're now 21-10 up. As you say, explosive plays galore in this stretch. But the first thing to talk about here is really Branch had the PBU on 3rd and 9 to force a punt. That allowed the Lions to get that touchdown into Amon-Ra St. Brown. What an amazing play design for that throw. Then the interception by Brian Branch before a nice series of plays by Gibbs, then the big throw to Sam Laporta, and then the Gibbs rushing touchdown. I mean, it was everything that could go well, did go well, but it started with Branch. It kind of had a little bit there with Amon-Ra and Goff. It was finished by Branch and Gibbs. I mean, it was brilliantly executed all the way around.
Yeah, those Bama boys really came in clutch. But yeah, so the play design for the Amon-Ra touchdown, like people have really picked up on it. It's like it was a bit of madness, like how does no one thought of this? Obviously, with the motioning of Patrick, so with that, it's you motion him in as an extra blocker on the right hand side. The line slides left, and suddenly, you've got enough blockers there to deal with a cover 1 look, because obviously a cover 0 look, because you have to bring in everyone, but still have to cover people. So you've usually taken 4 guys out of that because they're covering the 3 receivers, and then usually the tight end takes people out there. We're able to deal with it. It's obviously on the right hand side that we score from. It's a dagger look with Amon-Ra running the go, Laporta running the 10 and out, and then it turns out to be Monty running a sort of flat along the bottom. But on the other side, JMO, I think he'll probably be running a zone beater, something like a stop and go, as you said. So he sort of goes, it looks like he's stopping or going outside, and then he just cuts upfield, like perfect play designed for the touchdown, and really good. And then just doing branch things. How have we gone from this time last week worrying about losing our defensive player of the year running to potentially now having a guy who could win it at an even harder position? Like, how? Like, just Brad Holmes and Dan and everyone on the defense is smashing out the park this year. And then, they'll sit to go and drive again. Just, as soon as we got that, and you could see it's like, there was no one there. I even remember I've been saying, like, that was just a simple inside zone. How the hell did they not have someone there covering it? Like, stupid. Like, I know it was almost as if Flores did a Ben Johnson over 40. It was like, there's no way they're going to do something as simple as that. Yeah, we've got to man everyone up, see what fancy thing they're doing, we'll stop it, and then we just run up the middle on them like shit. But that's that second quarter. What a turn! The first quarter is that sort of like you're dropping down from like the big roller coaster, let's say Blackpool Pleasure Beach or Six Flags or wherever. That's the first quarter. That second quarter is using the momentum to now go up and down the things and actually get the proper adrenaline rush, because it was a damn good second quarter.
Just an update from Lost Oceans with the Dan Campbell presser that's happening at the moment. Monty has a bruise. He's fine. So that's really good news.
He got
behind his knee.
Yeah.
Yikes. That sounds painful, but not long lasting. So there we go. Right. That was the half, and then we go into half number 2. And as I was saying, the Vikings start this one off. Nice wide receiver screen to Jefferson on the far side of the field. He's toe tapping down the sideline. If he could have continued that all the way down, it would have been a touchdown, but he had to step out with his momentum, unfortunately for him. They then run for the same play, at the next play, the very same play they ran, but on the other side of the field. This time the Lions read it really well, and it's a tackle for a loss. Darnold scrambling out of pressure, but but there's offsetting holding penalties, 2 on the Vikings, on Detroit, on Amik Robertson, I think on Justin Jefferson, not 100%. Second down and 10, then again, Jefferson crosses for 8, makes it 3rd and 2. An easy completion, easy completion to Jalen Naylor, who's going out of bounds, who fumbles, and it's recovered for a touchdown by Brian Branch. This is then reversed on review. It's very, very close. It looked for all the world on video replay initially that it was very clear that he'd stepped out of bounds. When you look more closely, he's only down with his toes, and his toes are inbounds. He clearly loses possession of the ball while his foot's inbounds. But I think it's also quite clear that when his foot does come down and does touch the line, he still touches the ball. And so it doesn't even matter that he's not in possession of the ball. He's out of the bounds and he's touched the ball. It's like, I don't know if you've seen in college sometimes, or even in the NFL they've done it a couple of times, where a kickoff goes towards the sideline. Someone will kind of catch it, but they'll be like lying down or have their leg down and touching the out of bounds line to try and get that 40-yard penalty. That was before obviously the new kickoff rules came in, but it's a well-established thing, and I don't think there's any worries about the fact that that was miscalled. I know Dan Campbell specifically said, I thought it was meant to be conclusive. For me, it was conclusive, so never mind, we go. Branch has it taken off the board. So it's 1st down and 10 at Detroit 46 instead. Jones goes for a run for 9, then another 10. Play action pass to Munt for 2, which was really well protected, but there were no passing options down the field. It was really well covered by the line. 2nd down and 8, thrown into the ground by Darnold because the screen pass was blown up. 3rd and 8, 25-yard touchdown to Justin Jefferson. He was versus Amik Robertson again, so Jefferson lines up in the slot. The man on the outside then motions inside. So now Justin Jefferson is the furthest man outside, and he just runs a fade towards the goal line and just beats Amik one-on-one. I mean, he's got at least 4 inches, 5 inches of height on him, and he's also a bit faster. It's a bit of a mismatch. And yet the competition's really good by Amik. There's a slight push off by Justin Jefferson. I don't think it materially affects the play. You could call it. But I think if you were the Lions on offense in that play, you'd feel pretty aggrieved if that was called against you, to be frank. So it's a call that went against us, but I think it's marginal at best. Anyway, the PAT is good, and the Lions still lead by 4, 21-17. Detroit come out for their 7th possession. Play action pass to Monty on the first play. What a catch by him, a one-hander for 14 yards. I mean, he runs a very short curl route, turns around, and the ball is way out up above him, and he managed to claw it down with his right arm and get it under control. Fantastic play by him to get that. Then on 2nd and 4 later on, Holding against Glasgow makes it 2nd and 14. Pass short to Raymond for 5 makes it 3rd and 9. In empty set, Goff throws under pressure off his back foot to a crossing Khalif Raymond for 13 yards. Then Goff's first incompletion of the entire game comes. What a performance by Goff. Batted pass at the line. False start by Sewell makes it 2nd and 15. Goff then somehow doesn't fumble with Jonathan Grenard hitting his arm. And somehow Goff just maintains possession of the ball. It doesn't even look like he knew Grenard was there, but his presence is just so strong that he managed to hold on to it. And half a second later than that, he uncorks it to Tim Patrick down the middle for 22 yards to the Minnesota 25. J-Mo then, a pass behind the line, gets tackled for a 4-yard loss. Monty runs up the middle for 8 to get it to 3rd and 6. And then some guy, Nostradamus maybe, says, oh, got Khalif Raymond in the slot here, better look out for that. And he comes on a crosser, jukes out Stephen Gilmore, leaves him on the floor. Jameer Gibbs with a lovely ceiling block, which releases Raymond for a 21-yard touchdown. PAT is perfect, and the Lions have re-established their 11-point lead. I'll do one more drive, and then we'll stop there. Minnesota's 8th drive, down 11 again. Darnold play action pass deep to Johnny Munt for 30, negated by holding by Ty Chandler on the Brian Branch safety blitz. 2nd and 15, great throw to Jalen Naylor with several missed tackles, especially by Carlton Davis. The receiver goes up to catch the ball. Davis tries to contest the catch, but he's not close to him. Because he goes up to contest, he then can't go and tackle him. It's poor. Then Darnold scrambles for 7 yards, which is negated by Jordan Addison lining up offside. I mean, that really didn't help. 3rd and 9, Darnold well protected, throws to Aaron Jones, who's one-on-one against Malcolm Rodriguez for 17. It's a bit of a mismatch for Malcolm, to be honest. Still, good route, well thrown, gets to Detroit 24. 2nd and 7 in the red zone, or close to the red zone. Darnold then sacked by Josh Pascal, and unlike what we've seen by the Lions in the past, Pascal gets the pressure, gets around the edge, and while he could miss him by going a bit too far, he finishes really, really well, wrapped him up, made the most of his opportunity. Darnold then on 3rd down scrambles for 5, but can't get the first down. 42-yard field goal is good, and they bring it to a one-score game, although, of course, it is 8 points, 28-20. I'll stop there, Ash. Since the half, we've had the overturned fumble recovery for a touchdown. They then actually do score they score instead of us scoring with the Justin Jefferson against Amik. We've got the Raymond touchdown. And I mean, that was Raymond's drive, because apart from the Monty catch, Raymond was the one who caught it on the 3rd down to actually convert. He had the Patrick catch, and then Raymond got the touchdown. And then we held them to 3 with our first sack of the game. I think it was the first sack of the game. Yeah, so Pascal, ends their drive and saves us 4 points and keeps it to it's a 1-possession game now, but it's 8 points. We can't even go behind at this stage.
Exactly. Like I'll allow you the Nostradamus quote, because the amount of times I've gone, I told you so. Oh, you can have one, because you totally called it. I know you're Khalif Raymond's #1 UK fan.
I want that cut up.
I can do my best. It is downloading as we speak, I promise. But yeah, like, just what the Jefferson, yeah, it happens. If it was the other way around, you said, like, if it happens the other way around, let's say, I don't know, it's Amon Ra slightly pushing off against Josh Patelis, who's their slot, let's say. It is one of them. It's bang, bang. I think it was Noli Bianchi or Justin Rogers that put it best on Twitter, saying, yeah, he's not getting preferential treatment because he's a star. He's a star because he knows how to play it properly. It's kind of like yesterday when I was saying we were watching the Texans Packers game out my corner. Well done on the Texans players for wearing white gloves when playing against a white uniform, so it's hard to spot the holding. It's just one of them, like, little tiny ways that good teams have got to get around penalties. I love it. But yeah, then obviously our drive to score Monty's catch. Yeah, what a catch! If I ever pull something off like that in flag, I am 100% demanding they have it on video so I can share it everywhere. I have enough videos of me running weirdly at people. Let's get me some good videos for once.
Oh, but I want to see that video. I'd love that.
You've seen enough of me just standing with my arm in here running, like the crab walk, and then the crab walk on my TikTok as well. God damn it! All of these, I will play more corner and safety next year, hopefully, when we have our second team. So, anyway, back to the actual proper football. That was a great catch. Just Glasgow, like, I know it seemed like we could a whole game rather than this, but obviously because Glasgow got it. And then because Saul got it as well, there's our 2 best offensive linemen, technically, outside of Ragnow, who, spoilers for later, deserve some flowers. But everyone of our offensive line except for Ragnow got pinged with a penalty. Doesn't help when we're in such a tough environment. Like Dan literally said a couple of minutes ago in his presser, that's probably the most hostile environment we'll play in this year, which I kind of disagree with, because we've still got to go to Lambeau and it's getting colder. But yeah, well done to Goff for sort of overcoming that. Grenard's coming at him, as you say, and yet manages to get it to Patrick. Yet again, I told you so. This is why we need an ex-receiver, because those dig routes, 10, 15 yards down the field, the Josh Reynolds routes, we needed someone to do it. Finally, we're getting there. And you can see the offensive uptick when that's happened. And then, Raymond, slow start to the season, shall we say, on offense, hasn't really done that much. Now we've got a viable 4th receiver again. We've got 4 guys who can catch the ball, so God help when we go up against the Packers, who are still trying to get used to their new scheme with Jeff Hadney. God help the Bears when we finally come up against them, because I know they've got Tyreek Stevenson, who's good, Jalen Johnson are good, but they're still susceptible to some stuff. Like, we should be able to now continuous offensive progression. And then, well done to Pascal stepping up in a way on that drive, getting action, finishing up the sack, because obviously we were going to miss Hutch. And I know all the stats are coming out. We only had 15 pressures. And in this last game, which was Seattle, Hutch got 15 pressures by himself and all this. We need to make the pressures count. So well done for him to sort of converting that pressure into a sack, because it saved potentially it, instead of it being 7, it was 3. Still makes it a 1-score game. We can't go behind. It gives us that little bit of a cushion that turned out we really needed because of stuff that happens later.
Let's get on to the later. Detroit start their 8th drive up 8, so they know if they punt the ball back, Minnesota have a chance to tie the game. And that's exactly what happens on 3rd and 2. Play action throw over the middle to Amon-Ra St. Brown gains 16, but on 2nd and 8 subsequently, Goff sacked by Grenard. Goff fumbles again, but gets back on it. That's number 2. Remember, ESPN said 2. 3rd and 18 as a result. Check down to Amon-Ra St. Brown for 7. There were no options available. He was under pressure. Had to do it. 4th and 11. Punt down to the Minnesota 9-yard line. So they have to go 91 yards, but a chance for the Vikings to tie things up. And the very first play from their own 9 is a 51-yard play-action deep shot to Jordan Addison. It's a fantastic throw and catch. Addison splits the safeties down the middle. Neither can get there. Really good catch at the Detroit 40. Then a check down to Jones, but 6 yards behind the line of scrimmage. And Alex Anzalone gets a tackle. Nice read on the play. 2nd and 16. And illegal contact by Carlton Davis III gives a first down to Minnesota. Second time he's given up a similar penalty. Subsequent 2nd and 7. And a sack. Jack Campbell and a scrambling Darnold for no gain. Actually looked to me like it was just a tackle and they actually gained a half yard on the play. But it was credited as a sack apparently. And then 3rd and 7. Darnold scrambling again. Sacked by Malcolm Rodriguez. 48-yard field goal is good, and Detroit now lead by 5, 28-23. So, still up, still got the ball. It's all fine, right? 2nd down and 10. David Montgomery fumble forced by Josh Metellus, recovered by Ivan Pace Jr. for the 36-yard return touchdown. There was a flag on the play, but it was Glasgow holding, so that doesn't save us. They go for 2 to make it a 3-point game, but the attempt is no good. I believe it was battered at the line, but there was nothing made of it. It's just it was either a really bad throw that just kind of went into the ground, or there was some sort of interference at the line. You can't really tell on the broadcast coverage, and we'll wait for the All-22 to come out. This is the play where we were talking about Branch was following his guy here, there, and everywhere. If he gets fooled on that play, it's going to be a walk-in touchdown with Darnold doing something else. So really well done by Branch to stay in phase there. Detroit's 10th drive then. Down 1 now, 5 minutes 50 to go. Still a chance to go up here. On 3rd and 6, Goff is sacked and fumbled again. That's number 3 for a 3 and out. Van Ginkel got there, but great win. So they lined up Jonathan Grenard and Van Ginkel on the same side of the line. Really put Graham Glasgow and Taylor Decker in a bind. And both of those players won their reps. So Van Ginkel beat Graham. And Grenard had a lovely spin move against Decker to get free 2. Goff misses Grenard. Van Ginkel is the one who gets home and forces the fumble. Fantastic reactions by Frank Ragnow to get back on the ball, because if he doesn't get there, it's probably Vikings ball, and we could be talking about a completely different scoreline here. Instead, Jack Fox gets to punt the ball to the Minnesota 17 and downed at the 22 after a great tackle on Brandon Powell by Khalil Dorsey. So Minnesota now up 1 with the ball, about 5 minutes to go. They can kill the game here, right? Right? Well, 2nd and 5 after a run by Aaron Jones for 5. And a great follow-in pursuit by Levi holds Jones to 1. 4th is 3rd and 4. And Darnold rolls out to his right, but has maybe his first really bad throw of the day. Just kind of airmails it towards Jefferson, who is nowhere near. No flags. They have to punt to the Detroit 21. Returned by Raymond to the 30. Okay, here we go. 2:32 to go. Just need 3 points. They have 2 timeouts at this point because of the challenge that didn't go there. No, they have 2 timeouts because they screwed up earlier in the half. So we've got to kill significant clock here still, and we've got to get into range. Well, Gibbs has 14 yards on the ground to start us off. And then a play-action check down to Gibbs in the flat gives him 16. We get all the way to the Minnesota 36. Suddenly, that's a 53-yard attempt. We're in field goal range. There's only 1:24 to go. Okay, well, surely we go conservative right then. Lions teams of old would have just gone run, run, run and taken the 50-yard attempt. Not this Lions team. Goff play-action throw to Amon Brown into double coverage. And frankly, none of the coverage defenders had a chance against Amon Brown. Perfect placement, great catch for 14 yards all the way down to the Minnesota 22. They then run one run play for no gain and then decide to kneel down. That kills all of Minnesota's timeouts and takes it down to 19 seconds to go by the time we take a timeout to hit the kick. 44-yard attempt for Jake Bates is good. Straight down the middle, makes it a 2-point gain. But then the really fun bit to end. 15 seconds to go. And we kick into the end zone, which doesn't burn any clock. Bit of a trade-off there. Do you kick it in bounds, force a return, kill a little bit more clock? Decided that it wasn't worth the risk of maybe a larger return putting them in field goal range. It has happened to us before that we've given up a 30, 40-yard kick return. It would have made it easier. Cowboys especially had some really good kick returns last week. Yeah,
wanted to happen, yeah.
So that could have been a factor. So we decided to avoid that. So instead they do have the 15 seconds. And Darnold holds on to the ball for an eternity on the very first play. But he does deliver it to Jalen Naylor over the middle for 20. That gets them to midfield. They then line up in formation and spike it with what looks like on TV, no seconds left. But they spike it with 1 second to go. They were in an illegal formation, and because the illegal formation, if it was legal, the spike would have stopped the clock. An illegal formation isn't something which puts together a runoff because it's not a penalty which would otherwise have not stopped the clock. You're not doing something else wrong. So I think an illegal shift would have been a runoff because you'd be running the play wrongly. It wouldn't be an illegal formation, for example. There's little bits and pieces like that. So the clock on the broadcast is wrong and not aligned. It was spiked with 1 second to go. It's the correct decision. That's a 5-yard penalty and sets them back. Where they were, did you remember the number I told you at the start to remember? From midfield, add your 17, 18 yards for the kick. It's a 67, 68-yard attempt. Now, that would be the NFL record, but it looked very much like Will Rijkaard had the leg to at least attempt that. We know our own Jake Bates probably has the leg to at least attempt that. So the Lions, by getting that 5-yard penalty, took them out of even thinking about the attempt. Then they run one more play. It's Hail Mary territory, but actually we scheme up a pass rush really well. I think we only rushed 3, but Trevor Nowaski, 4? It was 4. Trevor Nowaski on the edge with a lovely sack to finish it. That ends the game, but man, what a final stretch to finish this off. So what we had here, we had a punt by us. They get 3 to make it 28-23. Then the fumble, so they go in front, but the 2-point conversion fails. Goff strip fumbled again for the 3rd time, but we recover it and punt. We then force them to punt the ball back to us. And then we are so leisurely in our drive, just killing clock and not worrying about it. Very confident that we were going to get there and not worrying about things. Go hyper-aggressive. Well, not hyper-aggressive. Compared to a lot of teams, it is hyper-aggressive to do what we did in field goal range. And it was really well executed. The confidence flowing through the team. Burn more clock. Gave us an extra easy field goal compared to what it might have been. Bates with nerves of steel to kick it through. And then all the shenanigans at the end as well. It was a really fun end to this game. I mean, not if you're fans of the teams involved. It was nail-biting. But, you know, if you win this game, you feel pretty bloody good about the adrenaline that you're feeling.
Yeah. So first place I'm going to go is back to the 3rd sack fumble. People who listened to our preview might remember that I said that sometimes on 3rd downs, the Vikings like to do a weird package like a NASCAR where they just put 4 edge rushers on the line. That's what they did. It was Grenard, Van Ginkel, then Jihad Ward, who's the edge rusher I couldn't remember that they picked up from the Colts, but him at the sort of nose tackle. And then on the other side, it was Patrick Jones 2nd. Rush, it works, causes the fumble. But then everything else, what I'd like now putting into the game, how Levi on to regain coverage. Who would have thought that would be a good thing, eh? But somehow it fucking worked. Jesus Christ. At least we were happy with it, unlike, Greg Olsen, who was moaning, oh, what are the Lions doing? Don't they know? Blah, 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 blah. Shut the fuck up. This is why you curse us, bitch. And now we've broke your curse because you moaned about us. We proved you wrong. Maybe this is why Tom Brady is replacing you, because he actually appreciates our genius rather than moans about it. jokingly, but obviously, yeah. And then that penalty, because luckily I followed that Football Zebras account, so I got it pretty quickly. That yeah, it's just not one of the ones that gets a 10-second run off, as you said. So they get it. The Rams, fortunately for once, it's not us getting over by a rule, because originally the Rams did against the Seattle Seahawks like 2005. So for once, but it's bad when even Football Zebras like, actually, yeah, we're looking, and quite a lot of the time these weird rules, it really screws over the Lions. When someone like account like that points it out, it must be true. We're not mad. The Lions do, the refs do hate the Lions, and we hate them back. But yeah, what a close to the game. Obviously, as people know, I've been overnights last week, so I've been struggling with my sleep. That did not help at all. Thanks a lot, Lions. Cardiac Cat's keeping me awake until 5 a.m. again. Our poor people on our Discord having to put up with me just lying there. It's like, I can't sleep. I might as well scroll Twitter. Oh, there's some news, right? I'll bump that in at 3:30 in the morning saying that some of Mrs. Coach has been fired. So one bad thing came from the end of this game. It's the fact it kept me awake and your Discord pinging every 5 seconds.
So just to go into some game themes here, the first one I have on the list is Jared Goff the leading candidate for MVP right now? Because the way he's playing, he's nothing short of perfect.
Yeah. If he doesn't get... He's still second on my ballot.
Who's
There's
first?
a certain player, your favourite QB, who's not Jared Goff.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah. It also helps that he has a receiver I absolutely love. Just look at our Discord. He's done a booking.com endorsement, and you cannot stop me loving my former draft crush from last year out of FSU. But right now, Goff is probably second on my ballot, and he's my leading candidate. He's my leading candidate for Offensive Player of the Month for the NFC. And I know, obviously, we don't have it here, and maybe it's spoiler for later, we'll just stock up and down. We've also got my leading candidate for Defensive Player of the Month for the NFC with Brian Branch. But yeah, he carries it on, which I think he can do. We've got, not to disparage against the Titans, but they're not exactly a good team. Packers are getting there with Jeff Hadney. I believe he can eventually get them into a pretty competent defense. It looks pretty good yesterday. Goff right now could do it. Could become the second ever Lion to get MVP after Barry, off the top of my head.
It depends how far back you want to go. I'm pretty sure we had MVPs in the 50s and 30s. But
yeah, so probably in the post-merger era, shall we say.
Yes.
But yeah, right now, Goff.
You could say first solo winner, right? Because Barry was only joint co-MVP, wasn't he?
I think so, yeah. After
just to let you guys know, Jared Goff is the fourth favourite in the MVP race at the moment. He is plus 750. So the three above him are all quarterbacks.
Josh Allen,
the guy you mentioned, is one. The other two,
Mahomes.
He's the favourite somehow, even though he's league leading in interceptions right now. But the team are 6-0, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
The other one is, I think, kind of obvious.
Purdy?
No. Oh, no. Purdy isn't on the list. He's 25. Purdy is plus 2,600.
Oh, Lamar.
Yeah, Lamar. Mahomes, Lamar, Allen, and then Goff. So, it's not like Goff is even being massively disrespected there. Obviously, it's maybe like that's a projection of, yes, he's playing the best right now, so we have to put him up there, but maybe we don't totally believe in him over the course of the season, whereas with these other three, Lamar's won it twice, Mahomes has won it before, and Josh Allen probably should have won it by now. So I can kind of see why those three are rated above him on a betting market, but it's recognition for him, I think, at this stage. Exactly,
because that's one of the big swings for this week, especially... Admittedly, it's only one day after, it's literally less than a day after the game, so maybe it will turn back to the usual. This is the first time since he came here that the plaudits and everything have been going to him specifically, not to Dan Campbell, not to Amaron, not to Ben. It's been, hang on, Jared Goff is actually playing pretty damn well, to the point where...
I think it's more that the system and the quarterback are getting plaudits almost equally, because people are saying, well, Ben Johnson schemes up a really good game, but man, Jared is elevating it.
Yeah, so it kind of goes back to the drive where we scored at the end. After the game yesterday, Amon Ra got interviewed by CBS, Sunday Night Football on CBS, and a weird video. It was like all very like old person on FaceTime, like right up with the guy interviewing Amon Ra. But Amon Ra says that's one of the things he loves about Goff is that he's so even, so high, so low. He came to because he got us asked, oh yeah, what did Goff say when he's coming to the huddle for that final drive? It's like nothing different, just the same.
Yeah.
Like doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low, and he's obviously not putting the ball on the ground that much. Like
Well, apart from maybe on this game, when you say put the ball on the ground, you don't mean fumbles, do you? You mean in the air.
I don't mean yeah. I mean in through the air. Yeah, I don't mean fumbling it. Like even though that is the only thing stopping him for having an elite PFF grade the past couple of weeks is his fumble grade. Just which, to be fair, not to call him a baby hands because I've got smaller hands than him, but that might be part of the issue is that he's obviously got less than average hands for a QB in the NFL, shall we say.
Yeah, so there was one stat I think wasn't there about Goff, which is frankly insane. Let me just find the exact one. Right. NFL and CBS tweet. The Lions offense is the only team with more offensive touchdowns, 18, than incompletions, 16, in a 4-game span since the NFL merger, which was in, 1970? No,
Yep.
That was, 1970. So, obviously, incompletions is his stat. Offensive touchdowns is a joint him and rushing game stat. But, he's still... The thing I want to say about the rushing game is obviously that scheme, that's Ben... That's the run game coordinator and all of that stuff. And yes, it's the blocking and it's the running backs. But Goff has some impact on the running game. There's two aspects to it. How good is the play action game? Because are they actually going to think, even though it looks like a handoff, it might be a pass, and so that freezes the defenders a little bit. He's exceptional at the play action game. He's so good at fakes, thinking back to him getting roughed last year because he handed it off and he got hit anyway. So you got that aspect of things. But the other thing is, his intelligence at the line to perhaps check into a run play if he doesn't like the pass fit and stuff like that. He can adjust the play at the line of scrimmage into something more advantageous than what's being called. His ability to do that has created plays for us. And yes, it's not stuff that we totally see all the time, but you do see him changing the play at the line and it's a run, and that run really succeeds. So it's not like he doesn't deserve some of the credit for the run game and the rushing touchdowns being good too, because it's what he's seeing and it's what he's telling everyone else.
Yeah, so case in point in that, Chargers last year.
Exactly so.
The infamous where the wrong personnel comes on, he checks into an outside run play, and Monty goes for like 80 yards. This is the good thing about it. And honestly, it might be going to the same on the QB on the other side with Kevin O'Connell. He's finally got an offensive coordinator who, feeds him the play, but then trusts him and gives him the right audibles, sending call it to something else if he wants, instead of literally playing it like a game of Madden and be like, you will play this play, you will do this kind of drop off, and you will throw it to this kind of receiver. He's got an offensive coordinator, a head coach, on offensive staff, and that includes all the players, the coaches, assistant coaches, and that trust him to do the right thing. And it's helped him because he's just got the biggest confidence in himself.
Absolutely. Mark has put it more succinctly and I think better, so I'm just going to read it out. He said, I think Goff considers himself part of the running game, and that holistic approach lends his abilities to read and call the correct play at the line, which is the overall success that we're talking about. So Goff is rightly a part of the MVP conversation. Right. Gibbs delivers when Monty falters. It's the first time in this entire season that either one of our running backs has had a bad game. And Monty had a bad game. Yes, he had the catch. And some of his runs were fine. But about 3.5 yards per rush. He had the fumble. He had the injury. He didn't look like quite himself. Obviously, we limited him as well. After the fumble, Gibbs came in. Gibbs was electric in the day. I mean, he had... What did he have?
160 scrimmage yards.
Yeah, but even then, we're talking about, in terms of yards per rush, it was 7.7. Like, that's exceptional. So, even by Gibbs standards, he really stepped it up when Monty was not doing quite so well. And that sort of ability to kind of elevate each other together, but then to pick up the slack when one of the others doesn't perform, it's such a strength of ours.
It really is. Like, it's the first time that Knuckles really faltered, but then you have, as we said, Sonic to pick it up, and he is the first, like to speak on Gibbs, first player in franchise history to produce a rushing average of at least 5.0 in 5 straight games with a minimum of 10 rushing attempts. That's insane.
Yeah,
Like
that is.
you've done something that even the two greatest running backs in this franchise history, both with the initials BS, have done in your second season.
It's crazy. He is really justifying where he was picked. And it's really hard to do that as a running back when you're picked that high, but Gibbs is just... His vision is elite as well as being very quick. He's nimble, his contact balance is great, he's got a good stiff arm. He does everything well, apart from maybe pass protection where he could improve. But all he has to do is look at Aaron Jones as what he could be. Jones is obviously a bit stockier, but they're not dissimilar in weight. Jones has a 10, 15 pounds on him. But the technique is what makes Jones so good in pass protection. I think he could learn a few things there. And if he can put that into his game, he's going to be an every down back for years to come. So, all right, next up, defensive side. A lot's been made of this, and I want to get into the discourse. Are we struggling with generating pressure in Aiden's absence? We only had 15 pressures by PFF. What did you make of the overall performance by the defensive line? Did they do enough?
No. And partly it's just Darnold was good. Like his pocket presence was good. As you noted in our Discord, he was rolling to the right a lot away from pressure. But of course, and I don't know, the DLP with their review show live yesterday said it'd be nice if we could get pressure on every play, like we do with Aiden. They put it a bit more crudely than that, obviously. They said it'd be nice if something happened when you walked into every room, but obviously we're going to be missing Aiden a lot. But yeah, I would have liked a bit more. Like, okay, yeah, you're going up against one of the best tackle duos, so yeah, the edge rushers are going to get shut down a bit, but would have liked a bit more through the middle. I know, obviously, Reader and Aleem did reasonably well with it, but they're not good there. We were calling it. I know, obviously, they got a couple of pressures through Ed Ingram and Garrett Bradbury. I'm looking now to see if Reader had 2 pressures, Aleem 3. That's decent, but that's a third of our pressures. The other ones, Nowaski, one big standout, and I know it's technically not D-line, but I'm counting the Sam as D-line because of where it lines up. Nowaski really has impressed me.
Yeah.
Like, I know a couple of weeks ago when we were doing our bi-week review and we were saying with Tom that, yeah, maybe we were overestimating Barnes a bit just because he was our only viable guy there. Maybe Nowaski showed enough that I'm not looking to replace him at that Sam role anytime soon. Like, 50%. So he's rushed on 5 of his 10 passing snaps for 1 pressure, which was the sack. So 25% pass rush productivity. Technically 0% win rate, which I don't get. Maybe it's because he was a free rusher on that sack because of how we schemed it with having him, Pascal, and I think it was Connor all lined up on the right-hand side of their line, and then the Liam kind of alone, shaded just inside the Garrett Bradbury. So it was just, yeah, they couldn't pick up Nowaski in time and just got through and sacked Darnold. But we didn't need a bit more. We need a bit more there. And I know we've said it enough that, yeah, we should be trading for someone. I'm still really, really calling for Zadarius Smith. And with the
Zadarius Smith, you mean?
Zadarius Smith, yeah. What did I say?
You said Zadarius Smith, which sounds like... It really sounds like something that you'd hear on Key and Peele.
Oh, yes.
Smith.
To be fair, that has come up on my TikTok a lot, like people reacting to that. So maybe that's why.
So good.
I like my Discord name for like 5 years was Osmataz Buckshank. So I do love that. Buckshank. I do love that. I do love that sketch.
The way that happened actually with the B, I'd love to hear Rowan Atkinson say that name. That would be so good. Anyway, sorry.
I will find an AI website and do that for you at some point. But to get back to the point again, as often happens with us, we need something else there. Like, I know we've obviously got Isaiah Thomas to come in at that big end role that will hopefully help, though he's more of a run stuffer. We just need someone else that we can trust because Pascal's getting there, but a 52.4 pass rushing grade isn't exactly great. Nor is, and I hate racking on the guy because number one, for what he did in his rookie season, it was great. Number two, I really don't want to get Ansire, but Houston, I know he's got the two pressures, 14.3% win rate. I don't know. I didn't see enough.
I
Like he
mean, he
got a
only had
couple.
9 snaps. He had 9 snaps. Patrick O'Connor had 12. Mekhi Wingo had 11. Jalen Reeves maybe had 10. Nowaski had 14. Houston played the least snaps of anyone who took a snap on defense. Like, even in a situation where a rush end is out, which is where he plays, he still can't really get on the field. It
Yeah,
speaks volumes as to what
exactly.
they think of him at this point.
Yeah,
He,
exactly.
yeah,
Like I hate it because, as you say, that rookie season, he was arguably, I know, neither of our guys won the award, but him and Aiden that second half of the season were the defensive rookies of the year. And unfortunately, yeah, we get breaks his ankle on that special team snap and he just hasn't the same since. But even then in the training camp, prior to Detroit had him on the roster bubble, me and you were both pointing out, okay, yeah, great, he's got the pass rushing. We need him to develop other sides of the game, otherwise his ceiling is capped.
yeah.
Now he's lost that elite trait. This is what it is. He's not good enough to play an off-ball linebacker position. Wasn't in college, unfortunately. That's why he got moved to edge in college. And he's not big enough to play edge full time. He's 240 pounds, if that. Like
Yeah,
he's not one of
I'm
those
kind of
retweens.
okay. I was kind of okay personally having him as a designated pass rusher and carrying him on the
Yeah,
48. I kind of feel like we can do that. So I really hate that we can't try to shoehorn him into a role which didn't suit him and just decide whether we could carry that player or not and let him be good at what he did because I feel like we've ruined him a little bit. I mean, I think the injuries have done that to him as well. But if we just let him do what he did well and just say, you know what, you're only coming in on 3rd and 10 or 3rd and 7 or longer because we run it in that position and it's a surprise. Almost no one else does that. So when people say, oh, they're keying into Houston, he's on the field, so they're going to go for pass rush. When 3rd and 7, teeing off on someone isn't exactly strange. So you make him part of your NASCAR package and just say, right, you go be that guy to hit the quarterback. Because he proved that he can finish. So if you want to be the drive ender on 3rd and long and you feel like you can carry that guy, great. If you don't feel like you can carry that guy, don't take him. Just cut him and just let him be that guy somewhere else. I kind of feel like we did the worst of both worlds by trying to make him someone else and then he's not even that guy anymore.
yeah. But the sad thing for him now is that is the best case scenario for him. Like I can't remember who said it yesterday on one of the podcasts, but honestly, if we cut him, a team might pick him up on the practice squad to see if they can try and rehabilitate him and get him back to a glimpse of what it was. But I don't know if that's going to happen. And yet,
No,
it's
no, people are talking about him as trade bait. They're saying, oh, maybe if we offer him up in return for Crosby with a couple of firsts. And
no.
don't think the Raiders would. I don't think many people would think
It
he's
would
worth anything in a trade.
exactly. If we're going to trade him, it would be, and this is going to be a throwback. It'll be like the Brock Osweiler trade.
Oh no, it's not that bad. He hasn't got a contract which you want to dump in that regard. It would be something like you trade him in a 7th and get a 6th back. Maybe you move up 20 spots at the end of day 3, which is worth I think precisely 1 point on the chart.
Yeah,
It's as little as little could be. But there we go. Anyway, let's move on from hammering James because he's a trier. He definitely is a trier. For me, in terms of pass rush, I think people have it all wrong in terms of this game. There's 2 things which I think happened in this game which people are missing. The first is this is the best offensive line we've played this season, and it's not particularly close. Left tackle Christian Darrisaw, Pro Bowler, likely going to be again, will threaten to be All-Pro left tackle. I don't think he'll be the All-Pro left tackle, could be second team, might just fall outside of it. But that's the calibre of left tackle we're talking about. There was a rep in this game which was absolutely insane from Christian Darrisaw, which is on Twitter. Go and have a look at it if you want. The right tackle, Brian O'Neill, he's not Penny Sewell, but he is up there in NFC right tackles. He will likely be a Pro Bowler alongside Sewell. So you're talking about 2 Pro Bowl tackles bookending this thing, and then in the interior, Ed Ingram is a weakness. But the rest of them are fine. They're not... In the middle is where we really should have tried to dominate, but if you're having a look at the edge guys, which is where Hutch lives, that's really where kind of my issues might have been. And in this game, how many times did I say in our breakdown, Darnold is scrambling up the field or to the right, to the left to have to try and throw? There was pressure in this game, but it wasn't like really obvious pressure from the edges, which was affecting Darnold by keeping in the pocket. The pocket integrity was actually fairly good most of the time. The pocket was being collapsed from the middle, which is what we would expect given what we were just saying about the Minnesota offensive line. So I think the interior guys were doing an unremarkable but okay job. They weren't getting destroyed, but they weren't winning massively. They were just kind of doing enough. And then on the edge, they weren't quite doing enough. They were getting a little bit of pressure here and there, but it was a kind of like average performance. It wasn't awful and it wasn't great against a really, really good tackle duo. Now, do you want more? Of course we do. Were we hoping for more? Yes. Did we get it? No. But take all the context into consideration. The one thing that I think we didn't see all day was anything from Levi Onwuzurike, which was really disappointing considering how well he's played so far. I think Ukwu did well considering he's a kind of... Is he UDFA?
Yeah, UDFA.
Yeah, he's UDFA. He's doing well. I think Wingo is playing admirably. I think that if you have a look at the calibre of play we have on the team, we got about as good as we could do. And if you have a look at where actually we conceded a lot of the yards against the run, have a look at run defence, they're running off their tackles, outside the tackles, and that's where a lot of Jones's yards came. Not a lot came up the gut. So they ran behind their strength into our weakness, and it wasn't fantastic. But again, Jones didn't destroy us on the ground. He had a good day, but it's not like we're talking about someone who broke 100 yards. So I think the problems in this area of run D and pressure are overblown. Could we improve in terms of personnel? Yes, but it's not egregious against one of the best offensive lines. And Aaron Jones is one of the best running backs in the NFL still. So I think we're hand-wringing a bit too early. It might get worse as we go on, but I think the worries have been overblown here.
Yeah, a bit. Luckily, next week, we might be a bit better. Like, Titans O-line's not exactly great, and Rudolph, the red-nosed QB, isn't exactly mobile. And then the other guy, if the other guy's happy, if he's happy and healthy, we're facing him, he can scramble, but what was it? Should be a tight end in the league. I'm never letting that go, by the way. He should be a tight end, not a QB in the league. I'm bringing that every time we mention.
I mean, have you got that clipped? Is it in the internet somewhere apart from when we recorded it? Obviously,
I could probably go back on YouTube.
I mean, I feel like he would try and kill me if he heard it, or he'd just laugh. I'm not sure, but anyway, yeah.
Yeah, he'll kill you. Mix your blood with some mayo in his coffee and down it. I mean, if and when the Titans draft a new QB in this next draft class, he's probably got a very nice job as a PR marketing person at Duke's Mayo lined up for himself already.
All right, let's get on to the other facet of the defense, which is the secondary. And my note here is just stepping up in a big way, because there was another facet of this. Obviously, Branch, we talked about in the drive breakdown about how he had a really big pass breakup on the third down. He obviously had the interception. But further to that, we had some really good play across the board. The number of times that maybe our pressure didn't get home and Darnold had a bit of time to throw and he had to hold the ball for maybe even three and a half seconds, and then he had to check it down. The coverage was generally fantastic in this game. Jefferson's going to get his, and yet against the player who has the most yards against one team of any active player, he had 81 yards. It's not exactly destroying a guy, is it? And then Jalen Naylor had himself a very good day, 4 of 5 for 76. Jordan Addison, 3 of 4 for 66. But generally speaking, they struggled to move the ball in large chunks. Like, the longest play they had was 51 yards to Addison on that play action pass. Other than that, I don't really think there were any like massive chunk plays where we looked like we were doing things really badly. I thought it was a good day from Terry and Arnold, except for that one run defense play. All of the linebackers covered really well. I thought that who else had a particularly good day? Oh, I've covered everyone pretty
Levi.
much there. So
Levi.
oh, god damn you! But you know what I mean. That secondary really stepped up.
Yeah, really did. So like, I've just looked it up because luckily I can have access to PFF stats, but not next gen stats. This is my daily screw you NFL for not making NFL Pro available over here. I really fucking hate you. But so Darnold yesterday, average time to throw 3.28 seconds.
That's a long time.
That is a long time. For context, admittedly, okay, it's got we're also including Goff. If we put Goff in there, 2.52 seconds. So nearly an eighth of a second longer in the pocket. Like, and yeah, according to PFF, it's only 44.8% of dropbacks pressured for Goff, which next gen stats doesn't agree with. For Donald, it was 31.4. So still 1 in every 3. Not too bad. But yeah, the coverage was great for especially the long have to consider. I know obviously we had technically 2 PBUs, both from Branch. But yeah, Anzalone did great. Gave up admittedly 4 or 5 for 4 yards, and 3 of those were after the catch.
And PFF then credited with a 90 coverage grade. We had 2 defenders with a 90 plus coverage grade, and that was on 37 coverage reps for Anzalone and 40 coverage reps for Branch. Like, that's exceptional.
Yeah. And then, of course, because you've got it up as well, I could say number 3, Nowaski. Sam, like, I'll have to double check what his run defense grade is, but if he's got anything.
Arnold 70.2, Jack Campbell 67.8. Like, these are all good grades, especially Arnold. Like, I think when people have looked at the first half of this season, they'd have a look at Arnold, have a look at the DPIs, and just say, I just want him to get better against the pass, screw the run. And that's kind of happened. He's got substantially better in these last 3-4 weeks.
Yeah, you've just on my point with Arnold. Not looking at anything he's given up. I'm looking at one particular column that's right next to the coverage grade on PFF. Penalties. Terry and Arnold, 0. 0.
And Carlton Davis continues to give them up.
Yeah. But of course, Carlton Davis, I wish I could find a way to get it up quickly. The separation stats.
Giggity. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. The one person I'm going to rag on a bit, and admittedly, this is because he's been credited with giving up that Addison massive touchdown, massive play action pass. Curb. He could have really helped a bit on those deeper passes. Admittedly, we can say it's an anomaly, at least this season, where he's been great pretty much the rest of the season. This was very much Curb of last year, and that scares me a bit, because I'm his biggest proponent, and I even in the preview I said I was like, you know what? I've been proving it now. I'm going to finally give up my take. It's Jesse Bates and Justin Simmons. We've got the best safety duo. Branch proves it. Godlike past couple of weeks. Curb, please don't make me seem like an idiot. But yeah, coverage as a whole, especially for how long they've had to cover, did pretty damn well, because this was pass rush 2 years ago, and thank God we've got the players we do back there to cover now, because if it was, I hate ragging on him because I think he's actually just tried out for the Browns today. If it was Jerry back there, if it was Desmond Trufant, if it was Jeff Okuda, if it was all these players we had before, Jefferson would have ran riot, Addison would have ran riot, Johnny Munch probably would have had 100 yards, because fuck it. So well done to the players for actually stepping up in the back end, especially without Aiden, because we're going to have to keep doing that. They're going to have to cover for half a second longer. And the fact they managed to do it pretty well against arguably a really good wide receiver duo bodes well for next week, when it's Calvin Ridley who can't get targeted, DeAndre Hopkins who's meh, and Chigo Conqueror who keeps drawing me in every year on fantasy and does fuck all, so I have to drop him after week 2 because I'm like, he's just not getting targeted.
All right. let's move on to special teams then. First one, I just have fake punt, really? Question mark. And this isn't about the look. It's not about whether we think it's advantageous. It's the was that necessary question mark? Because when the Lions were clearly the inferior team, you kind of said to yourself, maybe we need to steal a possession here. And so going for a fake punt kind of made sense because you kind of felt like you needed to do it to win the game. So you want an advantageous look, but you've also got the kind of the stimulation to do that. Lions were the number one ranked team in the NFL by a lot of different people, probably including themselves. Yes, you're on the road against a team on a bye that's unbeaten, but it's a really interesting call, even with an advantageous look, because it kind of says to me that they weren't totally sure that they were the best team and could just rely on their defense to get things done. I don't. Do you think that it says something, or was it literally just a? I think this is the right call at the right time.
Honestly, I think it's the latter. I know, obviously, I completely agree. Before, it was because we were the inferior team and we had to steal the possessions. We can't do it if we went completely away from it. If we start doing all the fake punts, if we start doing all this stuff, if we went ultra, I don't say ultra conservative, but more conservative than we had before, this team loses its identity. Part of the reason that we are where we are now is because Dan trusts the players, and sometimes you've got to keep the opposition honest. And yeah, okay, was it like we got the look, as Dan points out in his press because he was asked about it? They got the look they wanted, just couldn't execute. This was a tough divisional game in arguably it's probably one of our hardest games this season. Do I blame them for attempting something against the right look and it just not working? No, because sometimes, as I've mentioned earlier, sometimes those little things can be the margins that win you a game. Obviously, it was a margin that might have lost us the game if things really snowballed. But sometimes you just got to do it. You've got to, if you get the look, go for it, because sometimes it can flip the script. It can get you a big blowout win. And then at the end of the season, you look back, you could be like, that's one of the plays that won us the season. It's like we look back last year and in a microcosm of the game, it meant nothing. We got a touchdown of it. It's great. But the Amon-Ra touchdown against Tampa Bay last year, we got Craig Reynolds coming and flying in. As a thing, that's just a tiny little play, but you look back, you're like,
that really changed things. Yeah.
It really changed things. And that could have done it. Admittedly, didn't work. Dan's held his hands up. Phipps held his hands up, supposedly. Didn't execute it right. Maybe we gave it away with emotion, but we've got to keep doing it, because if we just keep punting it away, teams will no longer respect us. And then we will have to go back to, whenever we do put it out, it's a signal to the other team, hang on, they're worried here. We should really put their foot on their throat. If we keep doing it like this, if we do it against the Titans next week, which I kind of want, because spoiler alert for one of my stats from I've got for the preview, Brian Stonehouse had 5 punt blocks last year. Bear that in mind. Bear that in mind.
The final one I have is on Jake Bates. Could he really, actually, really be the answer? And I mean that actually seriously, not because I ever really doubted that he'd get there, but the way that he was slicing his kicks, the way he looked quite awkward, especially on the PATs, with it being a bit closer, that he hurries it and he slices them. There was one of those yesterday, but the rest were perfect. He seems like he's settling into it. He's now hit a game-winning field goal for us with time almost expiring. He's pretty much done everything he can do, apart from being given the opportunity to do it from 60 plus. He seems to be growing in confidence. And, I mean, you probably saw him in the locker room after the game, thanking everybody, giving, credit to the long snapper and the holder and all of that stuff. Like, he just seems like he's got the right attitude, that he speaks well, and the on-field stuff is really coming together.
Yeah, 100% agree. Like, it's got to a point where the Michigan Panthers are in their off-season and they've changed their name to number one Jake Bates Stan account. And I saw, because obviously he did it in the locker room. It was also where one of the new things the social media admins doing for the Lions, where they get the big play and they show it. And usually it's JMO with his big play or something. They show it to him. This week it's him. And it was him speaking about it and listening to him afterwards as well in the locker room. He was saying this time last year he thought he was done with football. He was a brick salesman. Like, number one, didn't know that was an actual job. Like, please tell me more about all the different kinds of bricks, because my like weird brain would love to hear about that. But yeah, he's done it. Like, the only thing he really needs to do now to really cement himself in law, Packers at Lambeau, against Packers at Lambeau, throw a touchdown to Taylor Decker. Do the Matt Prater. That's the only thing you need to do now. I don't care about kicking it from 60 plus, because part of my thing is that I don't think they'll do it. They might, if they have to do it, let's say I think it's week 17, isn't it? We're at Santa Clara against the 49ers. If we have to kick that 60 yard, then maybe Dan does it, especially if he seals us the 1 seed. Fingers crossed. But I don't think he will ever be that. Like, I know obviously everyone was joking yesterday as well. We knelt it to get a few more yards back just to make it a bit easy for Jake. But yeah, he's getting there. All like, I wish Pride of Detroit would finally answer my question about the slides and the Phil got the things, because I'd love them just to look and tell us what's going on, because the snaps are pretty much always good. The holds are pretty much always good. So is it a thing that he just likes doing? In which case, should we be snapping a bit further to the left and doing all that? Who knows? But yeah, the guy definitely cemented himself as potentially a franchise kicker. I don't want to say he's ever going to be Justin Tucker or how even Graham Gano, but just someone you can trust and rely. I'll take it.
He's doing everything in his power to win the job long term, and that's all we can ask for right now. All right, that's the end of our game themes. Quickly stock up, stock down, and then we'll do the rest of the weekend's games before doing a little Q&A in the post-show. So that will just be YouTube and Twitch only as we end the audio pod. We've already been going for a fairly long time now. So, Ash, who do you want to give a shout-out to this week?
Unfortunately, I will take one of the low-hanging fruits.
Go on.
Branch. Like, 92.7 defensive grade. The dude is playing lights out, and again, don't want to say I told you so, but proven that the move to safety was right. Hell, you know it's right when our least favourite Packers fan, who keeps talking about those, like, admittedly, he's coming really around us this season. He had us number 1 in his power rankings. Even he's like holding his hands up and saying, I was wrong. It's the right move for Branch, and it's worked out. He's still getting to do his slot stuff near the line of scrimmage. It's just getting him in positions where he can finally make those plays on the ball that you can't really do at slot, because you're focused on a guy. When you're safety, you could be further back. You could read the QB. Admittedly, week 1 and halfway through week 2 wasn't really working for him. He was getting his hands on the balls, just wasn't bringing him in. Now him and Curb are the first Lions duo to have 4+ interceptions at this point of this, where is it? Oh, yeah, 4 points this season. The last time we had 2 players with that through the first 6 games of the season was 1958 with Joe Schmidt, 4, and Bob Long. Again, breaking these records. And yeah, he is the forerunner for NFC Defensive Player of the Month off the top of my head. Arguably the second best safety in the division, with the first being Xavier McKinney, because that dude has been lights out for the Packers.
Yeah, he's been fantastic.
Branch has been amazing.
All right, I will take the other low-hanging fruit then, shall I? Well, there's 2 other low-hanging fruits, I guess, but we'll get 2 each, shall we? Amon-Ra St. Brown, the long touchdown, was just unguardable all day, got himself over 100 yards, didn't drop anything, was great blocking, just everything that you want out of a leader on the team. The first time this year, I think he's gone over 100 yards in a game, when, you know, he was setting records for consistent 100 yards games in seasons gone past. So it's good to see him break that for the first time this season. Mr. Reliable, missed the third down. Really just changes the game for us. He's such a big player, and it can't be overstated for me how much we rely on him to be able to do that, especially when Sam Laporta gets 1 catch, when Tim Patrick only gets 2 catches, when Jameson Williams has negative yardage on the day. Amon-Ra St. Brown was absolutely key. What about for you? Another one?
Frank the Tank. Who would have thought 3 weeks ago he had a torn pec? And now he's just posted his best ever single game PFF grade as a Lion. Didn't give up a pressure yesterday. 90.0 offensive grade, 88.8 run blocking, 85.1 pass blocking, and the stuff that doesn't get graded really helps Goff pick up the blitzes and that. I know obviously Goff deserves a lot of credit for having the right players in that, but Frank, the cerebral little center he is, really shouldn't call him center little when he's probably can rip me in half, but the guy he is really helped against that very complicated Viking split scheme. Helped Goff keep clean. Well, what more can you ask from a guy who, 3 weeks ago was having to push our head coach against the wall to prove that he could go?
Yeah. I want to give one to the entire linebacking group, but that's going to be my notable mention. The entire group deserves a shout out. Yeah. They were absolutely brilliant. Who do I give my last one to? Because it's between two, and it's the guy I absolutely love versus the one absolutely everyone loves.
Is it the number 3 and number 4 in offensive grade for the game?
Yes. Let's go Khalif. Everyone else is going to give it to Gibbs.
Yeah.
I mean, Khalif had the touchdown where he absolutely just jukes the quarterback out of his cleats. Absolutely brilliant move. But first time this season he's shown up on offense. First time he's really been given an opportunity, and he really can be that guy on a consistent basis. So we just have to give him a chance. He's always active because he's always going to be that special teams returner. Give him a chance in the offense. He's not going to let you down. 84.8 overall grade, 83.2 pass receiving grade, and 3 of 4 for 39 and a touchdown. Like that's great. When all those guys I just talked about didn't have the opportunity maybe to perform either, but with Laporta 1 catch, Tim Patrick 2, and Jameson 1. We needed something else from somewhere, and Cleve getting 3, and then Gibbs and Montgomery getting 4 and 3 between them as well. Like, it was those emergency valve type guys that really stepped up in the kind of primary guy's absence. So well done to the entire group. I mean, Monty receiving was good as well, 3 of 4 for 39. But yeah, Gibbs obviously deserves credit. He was absolutely brilliant, but we've talked about him already earlier. Is there anyone that you want to shout out for not having a particularly good day?
Again, I don't want to take the low-hanging fruit.
Go on.
KOD got better as the game went on, but I turned to you, didn't I, after that second series? Was like, if this carries on, what point do you go to Colby?
Yeah.
Like, was bigging you up. I was like, you know what, it won't be as big as a miss at right guard. Slot him in there. Please come back, Zeitler. Pretty please.
Yeah, I mean, it was a rough day across the offensive line, apart from Frank Ragnow and Penasel, to be honest. I think Decker deserves a mention here, and I was saying to everyone out there, you've got to take it with a pinch of salt, because Jonathan Grenard is him. Like, Grenard's deal, I think, from memory, was 4 years, $97 million. I want to say, you'll correct me, I'm sure.
Yeah, because you can hear my little...
I can.
Come on, 76. 4 years, 76.
Oh, okay. It was $19 million. Okay, that's a bit less than I thought. But regardless, he had a 14-sack season last year for Houston, got paid, and he's got 5 sacks on the year already, and he's been an absolute demon. He had Decker in an absolute blender all day, and it's a tough assignment, but Decker has faced worse. And, just really kind of dropped the ball, and Goff was under constant pressure from that side. And that's his blind side too. Goff dealt with it really well. That's underrated part of this game, is how well Goff did, given how badly both Graham, Taylor, and Coyote did on that line, at least for part of that game. And there were parts where we blocked well too. That's how Goff got some of those chunk plays. But offensive line isn't about how many good plays you do. It's really about how many bad plays you have. And there were too many early on. Most teams would lose this game,
Exactly.
Given what happens. So, yeah, there we go. Right, the rest of this week's games, very briefly. Let's not talk about Thursday Night Football. Gloss over that. So, Pats, Jags in London, 32-16 in favour of the Jags. Bit of a messy game. Jags with a 22-point second quarter killed it.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, honestly, but Drake made that touchdown he threw. Very nice. But yeah, then Tank Bigsby has announced the death of Trevor Etienne. And my fantasy teams are thankful for it.
Trevor?
Trevor, yeah.
Okay. Why was I thinking it was...
Because his younger brother plays for Georgia, who's also called Etienne.
Right. Why did I... Have I got them the wrong way round? I think I've got them the wrong way round. Okay, never mind. Cool. Moving very swiftly on. Seahawks, Falcons, Seahawks 34-14 victors here. I mean, it feels odd to say, considering it's a 20-point margin of victory, but better team lost, potentially, in this one.
Yeah, like, where was it? So, admittedly, that is helped. Their massive scoring is helped by the fact that they got a 84-yard fumble return from Derek Hall. That really helps wing it. But yeah, just it's again, this is kind of like our game where both teams were kind of back and forth, like similar first downs. Falcons ran more plays, similar kind of. It's very even, pretty much. It's just Seahawks scored, Falcons didn't. Like,
it's one of those things, isn't it? At the end of the
yeah.
day, Cousins had 2 picks, and I don't think... I can't remember them now, but I don't think they were massively egregious. And then he had the fumble. And, you know, you can't win when you lose a turnover battle like that. But Falcons overall played better on the day on offense and defense. I think that the Seahawks... Geno Smith had 207 yards passing. They had 103 yards on the ground. They didn't have much on offense whatsoever, the Seahawks, and yet they come up with 34 points. Like, it's one of those games that the Falcons are going to look at saying that got away from them too easily.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Titans-Bills. Titans got out to an early 10-point lead, but end up losing 34-10. Comfortable in the end, but we face the Titans next week, and they gave the Bills a bit of a scare early on.
They really did, and it got to the point where Amari Cooper, when he scored his touchdown, had to be shown what route to run because Allen audibled it at the line. I won't point out which receiver did it, but if you know your Bills receivers... Exactly, I was about to say, if you know your Bills receivers and you know me, you know exactly which receiver it was that was showing it. But yeah, Titans put up a bit of a fight. Kind of helped, at least in the first half, kind of helped they had a QB who could actually throw the ball. Though, yeah, let's just say, let's not let him get saying things to our edge rushers. Otherwise, there might be more helmet-to-helmet contacts than there was in a certain other game this week. Cough, cough, the night game yesterday. But Bills keep going. Titans will lose next week, hopefully. Otherwise, I will cry and carry on. Let's give the world one of the worst Super Bowls matchups in history, in terms of actual history, with the Bills and the Lions. Who would have thought it?
Next game up is Bengals-Browns. Bengals finally get the victory 21-14, but it took a long time to put this game away. Joe Burrow only had 181 yards passing, and they only had 59 yards rushing, so not much offense everywhere. Cleveland had to use the emergency third quarterback because when Deshaun Watson went down with a torn Achilles, his season is over. Sorry, not sorry. Dorian Thompson-Robinson came in and was awful, 11 of 24 for 82 and 2 picks. He then went down injured, so they had to call on Jameis Winston, who wasn't even active for the game, but this new rule's being invoked, and still, it was only a one-score game. And yes, Cleveland scored 8 points with 2 minutes to go to make it close, but even then, it took ages for the Bengals to put this game away against a team that has basically no offense. And Nick Chubb, his first game back, had 11 carries for 22 yards. So the defense was getting it done for Cincinnati, finally, because they've had none all year, but they managed to stop the run and still couldn't do anything to put this game away until late in the third quarter.
Yeah. I won't comment on LeBron's tweet or Jameis' post-game comments. Just read the room, guys, please. But yeah, like in the battle of what I promised with Ant, the game that I'll be watching, because it's the battle of who can lose so we can get their edge rusher. Seems I won the game because Zadarius Smith, you're one step closer to wearing the Honolulu blue. But yeah, just disappointing. Or the only good thing really from that game, other than the fact that the Browns lost and that Watson went down injured, is that T. Higgins got a touchdown, finally kind of getting there because he was getting better target shares and Chase, it just wasn't happening for him. So my fantasy team thanks you, T, for finally getting into the end zone. It took you long enough.
Next game up is Texans Packers. Packers with a last second field goal to win it 24-22. And I'm not sure which quarterback had a worse day. CJ Stroud was 10 of 21 for 86 yards, no touchdowns or picks. Jordan Love had 24 of 33, which sounds great. 220 yards, not so great with that number of completions. 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. A really mad game, dominated by defense. Houston managed to get 142 yards on the ground, including Joe Mixon going 25 of 115 and 2 touchdowns on the ground. Bodes well for a Lions matchup coming up against the Packers soon, I think. But, you know, the Packers pull it out when they need to right at the end. But Houston really botched this game by being at the 11-yard line with 2 minutes to go, needing a field goal to go in front. And they lost yardage after 2 straight runs. Joe Mixon was so gone on the ground most of the day, and then when it mattered most, Houston went to him because they couldn't pass the ball, and Green Bay, when they had to, dealt with it to give them a chance. And then I think the very first play after that almost put them in field goal range straight away, and what looked like an opportunity for the Lions to put some space between them and the Packers. They're still only 1 game back.
Exactly, yeah. And congratulations to Jock Jacobs for finally scoring a receiving touchdown. It took you this long, bro. For those who didn't know, he literally had not scored a receiving touchdown in his NFL career before yesterday. How? I don't understand. Especially when you're playing kind of really bad Raiders team with the only offensive weapon, you still don't score one. Also, rest in peace to everyone who benched on Tavian Wicks yesterday after him doing basically nothing for the start of the season and then him finally scoring a touchdown. Like, some people are really upset with that, and they're also obviously upset with Stroud. The amount of memes I've seen of like the 1,000-yard stare, and it's me sat at dinner watching CJ Stroud throw away my fantasy week. Like, this was for a battle of what is usually a good team in the Texans and the team that still has smoke blowing its up its arse by the media. Like, how we're going to cope in 2 weeks' time where we're going to come up against the future Hall of Famer Jordan Love, I do not know. Was a dire game. Like, honestly, if this game should have been like a 7-3 game, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Moving on to Sicko's game of the week, talking about bad offense. Dolphins at Colts ended 16-10 in favor of the Dolphins. Thank you, Indianapolis, for covering the 3-point spread and helping me win my 5-fold accumulator. This game featured 13 passes by Tim Boyle. That lets you know how good it was. Both teams passed 150 yards rushing on the ground, so you think there would be more points, but 149 yards passing for Miami, 129 for Indianapolis. Anthony Richardson is sub 50% completion percentage for the season, which is just all manners of yikes. But he managed to get 56 yards on the ground on 14 carries. So, you know, he's getting it done in other ways. It's a horrible game, but Indy get it done and they go plus 500 again.
Yeah, and again, we've got to play them in a couple of weeks. So it seems the order of the day, as per usual, is to load up the line and limit the big plays for Anthony, because it's either, he either gets you out on the ground or he throws a really nice deep ball, not much else. Which sucks because me and you were really high on him last year. Maybe I should have kept a Gator bias in my mind and hated him. But yeah, like, it was a shit show for the Dolphins, though. Like, you have a really easy environment for some bad QBs to come into, and yet Waddle is one target for two targets, 1 catch for 11 yards. Tyreek is 2 targets for 1 catch at 8 yards. But Hill got 5 yards on the ground. You've got supposedly really easy offensive scheme. Should be able to plug and play a QB in and do well, and it's just this bad. The only real winner from this game really was Johnny Smith, finally looking a bit like his old self with the 7 targets, 7 catches, 96 yards. Everyone else kind of looked meh.
Yeah, So the Dolphins' saving grace is that Tua is having his window opened, and they're hoping he'll play next weekend. So at 2-4, all isn't lost for the Dolphins yet, but they need to start winning quickly. Moving on, Eagles at Giants, 28-3 in favour of the Eagles. Net passing yardage in the game, the entire game for both teams, was 113 yards. Hurts was 10 of 14 for 114 and a touchdown, but 836 in sacks. Daniel Jones was 14 of 21 for 99, and he ate 7 sacks for 56 yards, which meant Drew Lock came in, and he went 3 of 8 for 6 yards. Like, come on, guys. So no passing offense of any kind, but the Eagles did get it done on the ground. Saquon was 17 for 176 and a touchdown, over 10 yards a carry. He was incredible. Made the Giants look stupid for letting him go. They should have just paid him exactly what he got from the Eagles, because he was their entire franchise and now they have nothing.
Yeah, it just sucks for Eagles fans probably waking up and seeing that they lost this game in overtime to a James White touchdown. Look at the scoreline.
Yes. Okay. I get you now. Fair enough. Right. Next game, Raiders at Rams. Rams win 20-15, but they were up significantly and the Raiders made it competitive-ish late. It was 20-6 midway through the third quarter, and the Raiders, through field goals, made something of this. They scored 5 field goals. Things ended with an interception from Minshew at their own 11 with 1 minute 40 left. But they were literally driving to win the game with 1 minute 40 left against the Rams. And the Raiders are one of the worst teams in the league. So, Ash, what hope have we got that the Rams can beat some of these NFC North teams, man? Because I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's really not. Like, Aidan O'Connell didn't exactly look great until he hurt his thumb. Minshew did enough to stabilize them. But they're like, I feel sorry for the Rams, the fact they're having to go through this in a way. I also feel sorry for Michael Mayer to go from who was supposed to be the TE1 in that class to now someone who's not even getting a target.
Yeah.
On a really bad Raiders offense. Like, Brock Bowers is great. Don't get me wrong. 14 for 10, 14 targets, 10 catches, 93 yards. Very good. Hell, Harrison Bryant, who's a back, like, they should be that first string tight ends, 2 of 2. If we didn't have Laporta, I would be calling them for Mayer. Maybe package up Mayer and Crosby. But yeah, just poor Raiders fans, you got close. Rams could somehow pull it out because you've got Matt Stafford. And then obviously, I know they hated each other during the game, but seeing Stafford and Max Crosby sort of hug it out at the end of the game, who knows, maybe Staff was giving him some restaurant recommendations for the city.
Moving on to Panthers at Commanders, the one game I was hanging on for in my 5-fold accumulator at the end. Commanders were 9.5-point favourites. I took the Commanders side of it, and they won 40 points to 7, and they only had 207 passing yards. It's just crazy. Jaden Daniels hurt his ribs, had to go and get an x-ray. I think he was cleared, but he's got some bruising, which is going to be day-to-day for the minute. Mariota comes in, and Mariota was brilliant, to be honest. 18 of 23 for 205 and 2 touchdowns through the air. 11 of 34 on the ground. Daniels was 3 for 50 on the ground. Washington ran all over them. It was 37-0, I think, before the Panthers scored. I want to have a look at that. Let's have a look. It was 37-0 before the Panthers got on the board, so I shouldn't have been sweating this game. But, Ash, we knew the Commanders were much better than people thought they were going to be coming into this game. Jaden Daniels being one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL so far this season. We knew the Panthers were bad, but I'm not sure I thought the disparity was quite as bad as this. I mean, the Panthers are legitimately stinking up the joint. This is, if they hadn't had a win already, they'd be an 0-17 watch.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't help when Dalton throws a fucking pick to Dante Fowler Jr.
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, Dante, okay, yeah, Fowler was good for 1 year on the Falcons. what are you doing? And yeah, just everything, it just went well. Like some of the former Lions on the Commanders really stepped up. Former Lion kicker, Austin Seibert, thank you for carrying my fantasy team this week. I picked you up. Zach Ertz, the former Lion, getting a touchdown. Like, well done to Commanders. Just getting a tiny bit of respect from me after how you treated Ben in the off season, but well done. Hopefully, you can win the East. It'll be a nice, fun matchup for us if you do,
Mm.
because I'd love to see that. Beat the let them have a nice season, and then they come to us in like the divisional round, and then we show them why they should have picked Ben over Dan Quinn.
Next up is Chiefs at 49ers, finishes 28-18. 49ers with no CMC lose Ayuk and Deebo Samuel in this game. Ayuk is now confirmed done for the season. God knows when CMC is coming back. Presumably Samuel's illness won't persist. But San Francisco just couldn't take advantage of a Chiefs team who didn't exactly play well to get this victory. Patrick Mahomes, 154 yards, no touchdowns, 2 picks. They were carried by Kareem fucking Hunt of all people. Like, this is just the 49ers scheme, while simple, at the running back position, it was always said it was kind of running back safe. You could just put anyone in there, but CMC elevates it. But now CMC's not there, and now some of the wide receivers aren't there. That scheme is lacking a few weapons. Kittle was the main person who kind of benefited 6 or 7 for 92, but Chiefs playing badly, still winning games. They're now 6-0.
Yeah, I mean, play of the game goes to Brian Cook, really, for getting rid of the 49ers' best player.
Yeah.
Getting Trent, but they both should have been ejected for that.
Yeah.
It's just because I think Trent did it like sort of bang the back of their head is why he did it. He did, and Cook didn't. But geez, yeah, like for what is supposed to be a battle of well, it was a Super Bowl matchup. Hell,
Yeah. Mahomes threw 2 picks, not to be outdone, Purdy threw 3.
exactly. And only like I'm sad that I went down. Totally not because I have him on 2 of my 3 fantasy teams or anything, but spread the ball. Like that's the one good thing about it. Like both of them, both teams are kind of spread the ball around. Like obviously Kittle got his, but Jacob Cowing, the Arizona draft rookie this year, the small little speedy guy, had a decentish day. Ricky Pearsall coming back from being shot, had a pretty decent day. Jordan Mason was good. Ronnie Bell, like they spread the ball around, and then on the Kansas City side, who would have thought that Noah Gray would be their leading receiver?
Yeah. Crazy.
Like what? It's just like props to Steve Spagnuolo. Like you are really carrying that Chiefs team right now. If Mahomes can actually work out how to be a decent QB again, the Chiefs could be unstoppable until they meet us in the Super Bowl. Then we'll beat them again and make Taylor Swift cry.
Final game to look at is Sunday Night Football, which is Jets Steelers, and the Jets got out to a 15-6 lead before conceding 31 straight points. Russell Wilson gets a start over Justin Fields, which everyone criticised. He comes out 16 of 29 for 264 and 2 touchdowns. He chucked the ball up to George Pickens, who gave him a chance, and Pickens absolutely delivered 5 of 9 for 111 and a touchdown. But they also got some play on the ground. First time in a while that Najee Harris was, legitimately looking really, really good. 21 carries, 102 yards and a touchdown. And the Jets are 2-5. Clearly, Devontae Adams has changed the world there.
I mean, yeah, he's the reason he lost because he's lost them twice in a week now. Well done. Well done, Devontae. Who's going to be next? Well, I mean, Bobby Tonyan, the Vikings might cut him. He can go over there. Well, you know how we used to be the Detroit Patriots. Welcome to the New York Packers, boys and girls. It's going to be a fun ride. The only good thing about the Jets is maybe if JT can come back nicely, he might be able to win the job off A-Rod next year. Because who would have thought A-Rod would actually be worse for the Jets than Zach Wilson was last year?
It's nuts. It is really crazy.
And at least Brees Hall didn't do it on the ground, did it through the air. Nice to see him kind of bounce back a bit. Like that's the one shining star for it. especially since Rogers probably broke Garrett Wilson's ribs with that force ball into him that Bree Bishop got. So that's a fun stat. A UDFA cornerback got one less reception from A-Rod than Devontae Adams did yesterday.
It's a beautiful stat. I love that. Right, that is all of the weekend's games wrapped up. We've had some questions in. We're going to take them off the air on the audio pod, so we're going to wrap up now on the audio show. If you're on YouTube and Twitch, we are carrying on, so stay where you are. Next episode on the main show is going to be this Thursday. It's the Titans preview show, so do check us out for that. The college football podcast is going to be back in between either Tuesday or Wednesday, normally Wednesday, but can be Tuesday. So look out for the notification there. If you hit the bell on YouTube, you'll see when it's coming up. But the guys are going to be recapping that. It's an extraordinary weekend of college ball, including a huge loss for Alabama against Tennessee and a big win for Georgia against Texas, 1v5, I think that was. Not going to be any more with the new rankings coming out. Check out the boys when that comes live. Otherwise, you can find us on our socials, Royal Lions UK on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and the group for Worldwide Fans, T-shirt Lions Fans UK, One Pride Worldwide, on the website, rotluk.com. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate us 5 stars on your podcast provider. Do join us on our Discord channel on the link in the audio description. For now, just remains for me to thank Ash for doing this with me, and top of the NFC, boys. Let's go! Lions One Pride!
One Pride and fuck the Packers.
Recording stopped.
Right.
Sneak that in.
I am going to just go and quickly get myself a drink because Lost Oceans redeemed Matt has to drink a beer for 3,000 channel points. I do not... you're drinking Guinness. Nice. I do not have any beer because I'm not currently drinking it, but I will go and get myself a rum and coke. So, two seconds and I'll be back.
No worries. Give me a second, lads. I will pull up the chats and you can throw all the... Monty Rice has become a free agent. Hello, chats. I'm coming in, I promise. Okay, we're back on YouTube. Oh, come on. YouTube is solo. There we go. Please don't bless me with my own voice. Really don't want to hear my own voice today. There we go. I'm in. Hit me with it, lads, while we wait for Matt. Corona. You can't be a prisoner of the moment. Oh yeah, we're always ready for questions. Like that's what we're here for. I mean, I've seen some of them. Mama, what's next for Kirby? Which one? Kirby Smart or Kirby Joseph? Kirby Joseph, hopefully a bounce back game against the Titans. Like either we're facing Bill Levis, who's a turnover machine, or Mason Rudolph, who, you know, should be going back to pulling Santa Slay in a couple of months, hopefully. Sorry, obvious joke. That's totally not what my preview article this week's going to be called. I have totally not tried to Photoshop a red nose onto Mason Rudolph or anything, but we move. Oh, for God's sake. I'm going to 55.
Oh, why so low?
For God's sake.
I love it. I love it. Right.
Oh,
cheers, everybody. Nice rum and coke. Incidentally, my favourite rum at the moment has been for some time Bumbu.
Ooh,
Bumbu Caribbean rum. Really.
I'm not really a rum guy, but sounds nice. I'm more of a showing my youth here, but a Jaeger guy. Oh,
I love Jaeger. Jaeger's lovely stuff. But so Bumbu, it's £30 a bottle. But it tastes of... So it's gold rum, so it's not as heavy as dark rum. And it tastes of cinnamon and banana. So when mixed with Coke, it's really nice. It's like having a kind of... Well, like having a vanilla Coke, but with some spices in there. It's really good. What do we have? Grandad said, question. My questions get overlooked. New question. Will Will you used to pause when you make some sus comments? You did say you will go down. Cheers. Maybe Matthew should have a tequila sunrise, some vitamin C. Ha ha ha. I would love some vitamin C. Your questions haven't been ignored, although I don't actually have one of them listed. But we were answering some of your questions were stock up, stock down, which we did on the show. So we already had some of them in there anyway. Come on, man. Talking of questions. So Steve Collins, not that Steve Collins, but another Steve Collins, because there can't only be one in the world, and we've got another Steve Collins, so we are all the stronger for it. He asks about what we were saying about edge rushers and stopping the run and Darnold having more time in the pocket. Do we need to bring in another defensive lineman? We kind of covered that. We're both in the camp, I think, that we should definitely be trading for someone. Should we go for the really big move? Should we go for the mid move? Should we go for a low value move? Where are you pitching at? Yeah, I'm.
I keep saying it. So
do you have a ceiling on the sort of consideration that you're willing to give up for any player?
Again, it's not to cop out. It depends on the player, obviously. Let's use Max Crosby as an example.
I'm just saying. Let's say. In isolation, the trade is good value. So then it doesn't matter which player it is because we're getting a player commensurate with whatever the terms are, whether that's contract or skill or whatever. Yeah. It's a good value trade. Is there a value you don't want to go beyond in a vacuum? Because I don't want to give up a first round pick.
Yeah, I was going to say second. Like if we have to give up a second for Darius Smith, let's say, I'll allow it. Of course, because I know having Max Crosby here would be absolutely amazing. It'd be a homecoming for that. Long term, is it the right move when we could use that one? Let's say in 2 years' time, Decker's just done, or Ragnar's done, and we really need to get a centre who can just slot in. First would be really useful for that, and then by the time that's happening, you're paying Max Crosby 35 million plus probably. You're paying Hutchinson that, and I know the cap's going to keep going up, but in a couple of years' time, it's going to really hamstring us potentially on re-signing our own guys, which is where the team wants to be. So, someone like that. Josh Uche is another great name. I know obviously he's just played in over here, so maybe a bit biased, but just someone like that, low-level rental, but he's good enough to start, but isn't exactly going to break the bank on us if we want to extend.
So the thing about Crosby is that Crosby makes much more sense than Garrett. If people are talking about both, Garrett could still last forever, but he's a 32-year-old edge rusher. There's no reason to believe he's going to tail off. But if you're going to make a high-value investment in someone, the threat of retirement for me and a non-quarterback at that sort of age worries me. It just does.
Yeah.
Crosby is at least 27 and will have retrade value. The only way that I'm okay kind of giving up quite a lot is if halfway through the contract you go, right, I'm going to cash this back in to get the trade capital that we've somewhat lost. So if you traded for Max Crosby by giving up 2 firsts and change, and then 3 years later when he's 30, you get back a first and change. And so you've spent kind of a first round pick to have prime Max Crosby for 3 years. I can kind of get on board with that. But in reality, that very rarely happens. You probably trade for him for that, and then when you want to get rid of him, you end up getting back a third round pick when he's kind of his value's gone, and that's why you want to get rid of him. He's not worth what the contract is being paid for. You probably then have to not pay someone. So if you bring in Max Crosby, I don't think you can pay Kirby. And paying a safety seems like a luxury. The safeties aren't getting paid anything, and Kirby's going to want getting paid. So I don't think Kirby would stay if you get someone like Max Crosby. So that's what you're sort of giving up. And I think that in isolation, getting Max Crosby in return for not paying Kirby Joseph improves your team. There's no doubt that Kirby is not quite as good of a player in terms of impacting the game on a down-to-down basis than Max Crosby is. And I think that Max or Garrett would fit with Hutch. I think any of those players are so good that it really doesn't matter what scheme you're playing as long as you primarily play with 4 down linemen, which every team does in this day and age. So, and we do every down pretty much. So, no problem with scheme fit or anything like that. The value's too much. The impact on the team is too much. We need to... If it's a second round pick, if it's a second and future capital in future years, I'm okay with that as long as the value's good. But I don't want to see a first round pick leave because we're so good at evaluating talent across the board. And I know that's being used as a way of saying, yes, so why don't we trade away the high assets? Because we're still going to be good at picking talent lower down. But we're so good across the board with it that high value stuff is worth even more than a first round pick to other teams. Because we're really good at this. So we should want to potentially trade away players we don't want to pay to generate draft capital so we can draft more, not less.
Yeah.
And that keeps the team cheap.
Mm-hmm. But that's the issue. I know it's kind of just going into one that Grandeyes just asked in the chat about should we be sellers? Because we know me and Ant looks at it in our preview. There's not a lot of players really on expiring deals this year that are worth trading away, to be honest. So unless you're trading away someone that's got 2 years left on their deal, but even then, you look across our team, is there anyone you're really willing to give up? Unless the one I said is maybe, I don't know, a team has in next week they have their top 2 corners go out and they trade us a 3rd or 4th or something for Kindle Vildor, if that.
Yes, if Vildor was picked up off the street by us, he's worth a 6th or 7th at best. Rakestraw is the one that could generate, say, a 2nd round pick because that's what we paid on him and he hasn't really played much yet and he had an injury, so people aren't going to do him down for not having played much yet. I just don't think the Lions are going to go for that. I think they really believe in him. There is one player who I really, really, really like who might be worth something on the market who we don't really need, but I want him to stay here, and that's Brock Wright.
Oh, I was thinking another player on offense that's similar.
Okay, who?
Craig.
The thing with Craig is, again, we picked him up off the street and he's not playing enough to the point where he's going to be worth much. Maybe we get a 6th or a 7th for Craig, but I don't really think so. The fact that San Francisco trying to play Brock Wright already goes to show that there is a market for someone who does what he does. It has to be a team that respects what a tight end can do and respects how smart Brock is. So he's only going to appeal to some teams and he's going to be an acquired taste. But for the teams that like him, he's going to be worth something. I wouldn't be surprised to see Brock go for like a 4th or 5th. He's not a game-changing tight end, but as a tight end too, he's really going to impact what a team can do. And him going out and being replaced by Hesse or Zylstra isn't as much of a step down as some of the other moves that you might think if we're going to sell. I just don't see anyone leaving, frankly. The team love everyone that we have. So the only one that makes sense is Houston, and that would be a pick swap in day 3. And so who cares at this point? We're not really getting much, if anything, really. Anyway. Grandad asked if we've got a Titans person for Thursday. I will double check because I can't remember who we usually do stuff with, so give me a second. Another question for you, Ash. Lost Oceans. What players on 1-year deals have played well enough through 6 games that you'd re-sign them for the Lions? Carlton Davis, John Kaminsky, Marcus Davenport, Kevin Zeitler, age of fact, ? Amik Robertson. Amik is not on a 1-year deal, I don't believe. I think he's on a multi-year deal. Tim Patrick, etc. Any guys that you would re-sign? I'll double check Amik. I thought that he was on like a 2 or 3 year deal.
I thought he was on a 2-year as well. But
anyway, to the question anyway.
There's 2.5 that actually, let's say 2 because 2 of them actually, I'm gonna get away and say half because if we do re-sign, I'll be happy. If we don't, I'll be happy. So the halves are, and Ant's gonna hate this, Davenport.
No, yeah, okay, fine. Yeah.
Because I know we're only doing 1.5 games of him, but especially if we trade for someone that is a 1-year rental, Davenport is the perfect kind of player to have opposite Hutch, and he showed me enough in that 1.5 games. I was like, okay, yeah, if he didn't have that freak injury, would he be able to continue it on? Maybe. So he's on there. Zeitler is a potential. That is the other half because I'm like, yeah, the age is a concern, but he's playing well enough when he's healthy that I'm like, if you're happy to come back for a deal around the same price, I'm happy for another 1-year rental. Gives us another year to sort of work out the O-line situation. And then Patrick. I was screaming over and over and over for a competent ex-receiver on this team. And now we've got it. He's got the trust with Goff. He's got the playbook down. He's running those digs and that 15 yards downfield perfectly. He's doing the contested ball situations, which we're looking for. Look at his catch last week against the Cowboys. Again, and because of the injury history, he should be relatively cheap as well. So if you want to re-sign him to another 1 year deal that's fairly team friendly, still gives him a bit of guaranteed money, and then we look into the draft day 2, day 3, cough, Torrey Horton, and then replace him long term, that I'll be happy with. The others, Kamish, probably is on the outs. Davis right now, I'm hoping we can slide Ennis out there, to be honest. And then the others are like, it is what it is. Like if we do resign him, they'll probably be minimum deals. So it's by that point.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. Kaminsky's going to be on his way out, and I thank him a lot for what he's done for this team, because I think he's been a big guy, especially in the locker room. But also, that first year and a half, he was a big guy who stood up and was counted and did not back down. But I think we've got to the point where he doesn't need to be here anymore, and actually he would serve as a great player on another team that were kind of near where we were at that time. He's a fantastic player on a rebuilding team.
Carolina.
Yeah, I think that would be a great move for him.
Because where did he go to college?
Tell me.
Charleston.
Oh, fair enough. Okay. I think I'm with you on all counts. I'd re-sign Tim Patrick to the same deal we wanted to... to the same deal that was given to Josh Reynolds. Yeah, so Josh Reynolds got 4 million APY from the Titans. 3 years 12? 2 years 12? Either 4 or 6 million APY.
4.5 year.
Okay.
4.5 mil API. 2 year 9
2 year 9. Okay, so
4.2.
that's perfect for Tim. The thing about Tim is he hadn't put much tape down on getting healthy again because he got unlucky. He's put that tape down now where he's had several games in a row injury-free. Let's get to the end of the season and see. But he'd be one of the first names on the list for me because that's a crucial position. And, I think Tim's good enough. Like, he got absolutely paid by the Broncos, and deservedly so because of how well he played. Now, will he ever get back there? I don't know. But the route running, the catching, what he can do out there is being displayed right now. So if we can get him on a discount, continuing to be, because he's on this team because he likes being here and he thinks he can ring chase, and we've got the chemistry already, absolutely perfect. And then we can look elsewhere at like you say, depth positions or a depth draft restocking at that position, and otherwise don't have to go big on it, because it's not a position which is really important to have a really big name at. It is important to have a passable player at, which I think is the point you've made all along.
Yeah. There's one player that we forgot that has a deal expiring this year and actually is a really big decision.
Who?
Levi.
Yeah, I guess he didn't sign he's on an expiring contract as opposed to a 1 year deal that we brought in.
Yeah.
But yes, Levi needs to get paid. And I think that he'll definitely get some money, and I think considering his injury history, it won't be a huge amount. Carlton said, what about extending Iffy? Same line of thinking. Problem is, he had such a bad off-season that he's really hurt his ability to get paid here. But because of what he put on tape at the end of last year, is he going to want more than we're willing to give him? I think, considering I'm the president of the fucking fan club, I think it's headed for divorce. If I'm honest, I can't see a way that he comes back.
Depends on who you listen to, but he is supposed to, if you listen to some of the beat writers, the team has some similar opinions about him than they had with DeAndre Swift.
I can absolutely see that. The talent is clearly there, but sometimes he's not seeing the wood for the trees when he needs to think. Yeah. Anyway, not like his brother, much better than that, but...
Fucking hell. Oh, Jesus. I forgot about Obi.
Yeah. I would pay Zeitler another 1 year contract. I would pay Davenport half the money he got this year.
Yeah.
Just say come back and do it again. Do if you can give us 8 or 9 games for that money, I'm happy. Obviously, you only gave us 2 this time, but
a game and a half.
Yeah. Carlton also had another question about Alan Robinson. Is he playing dependent on injuries? I think the answer is clearly yes.
He's occasionally. So you remember how we used Marvin those last couple of games before we released him because of the family stuff last year? It's going to be like that. You bring him in on clear running downs to be a blocker. There's maybe a couple of special team snaps, but yeah, he's very much you need Tim to go down before you're getting any snaps. And even then, Leaf probably get 80% of them, and you're just getting the ones where you're a blocker. That's all he is at this point, unfortunately.
Final question from Grandizer says, are you lads surprised that Justin Jefferson wasn't able to do more yesterday, or did you expect the Lions to really limit him? We alluded to the fact in the show that obviously he's got over 1,000 yards against the Lions on his own. So, for me, he has that history, but this team is completely different. Now, I didn't think we'd be able to shut him down. Excuse me. I didn't think we'd be able to shut him down completely. And the fact that he got the yards he did and the touchdown he did was testament to that. I think this is as good as we could have done. Considering that they schemed him up to get a meek on him, and it wasn't the only time they had a meek on him. The fact that he didn't do more, I think, was a surprise. I think Jefferson's going to be disappointed that he didn't get more from this game. I wouldn't say I expected it, though. Like, Jefferson is the best wide receiver in the league for me. So holding him under 100 yards has got to be a win.
Yeah, I'm surprised as well, so much that bet I was saying. The two bits that lost me potentially getting 100 quid from my friend, obviously Monty with rushing yards, but Jefferson, I bet the over. I thought the game plan would be what it's been like similarly in the past, where, especially last season, where it's you let Jefferson get whatever he can, don't care, just restrict everyone else, because they can't just keep force feeding him the ball, and kind of worked out that way. I know obviously Addison got the big completion, Jones got the big rushing touchdown, but for the most part, we did pretty damn well. Like, yeah, Jefferson will be disappointed he didn't get more.
All right, we're going to call it a show there, guys. Thanks for the questions and for sticking on for extra time with us. We'll be back later in the week for the Cottage Show and then the main podcast previewing the Titans. Hopefully with Grandizer's help, we'll have a good guest for that too. We'll see you later in the week, but for now, we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.